Hello, everybody. Welcome to Frame Trap. I am joined at the end there, Kyle Bossman.
Hello.
Right next to him, Michael Damiani.
Hi.
And I'm your host, Ben Moore. I haven't seen these guys in like 5 days, 6 days. I've been out doing some work, doing an event, and because of that, I haven't been able to play quite as much as I was hoping to. But I was thinking about it, and all of the allies feel like they're kind of in a different place game-wise right now. And maybe it's just because I haven't seen you guys, I don't know, but I feel like Huber's over on this end saying you guys got to play this. I'm over on this end saying you got to play that.
Yeah.
And I don't know what Kyle and Damiani are playing. And so how are you deciding in this never-ending craziness that is 2017 what you land on, what you play? What's influencing those decisions?
It's weird stuff, Ben. I mean, there's a variety between hotness and coldness in the games that I'm bringing to you today.
Yeah.
You got to follow your heart. You got to follow your heart.
Yeah. Is that heart ever changing though?
Ever-changing heart.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, that's the point. Is you sit there on your couch and you say, "What do you want right now, heart?"
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Boy, Kyle, I think you hit the nail on the head because there's a lot of good stuff coming out. Like a game that I'm going to talk about, Hellblade, is just fascinating to me on so many different levels. But then something like the Mega Man Legacy 2 collection comes out, and you just have that moment where you're like, I really do like Mega Man. Maybe now it's time to just play a bunch of Mega Man. And I feel like that's what's been going on, is this year has just been bouncing me between all of those different emotions. And at any one moment, I want to play something different. How about you, Damiani?
I've just been trying to play whatever I can get my hands on.
Oh, okay.
In terms of the new releases and stuff. I feel overwhelmed so far in 2017. It doesn't feel like there's been a moment where it's just like, hey, there's a month where there's nothing I need to play this month. Every month has been like, not only is there something you need to play this month, there's more than one game you need to play this month. And not just more than one, it's like 5 games every month. So it's just like, okay, this is just going to keep going on with no end in sight for this. But at the same time, like, yo, this is pretty good. Can we keep this? Let's keep this going. This is better than having like nothing to play, because this just means that there are so many good games for everyone to try out. Like, it's better to have more games that you can't play released, I think, than having like no games at all. I'd rather have the problem of having, holy crap, there's too many games to play, than what am I going to play this month? There's nothing coming out this month. It's kind of like those droughts. I think about when I was a kid, those droughts.
Here's the thing, though, is there was a Q&A we had at Easy Allies where someone asked, wouldn't it be bad if there was just a year with no new games? And we all said, no. That'd be so great. I still dream about that. I dream of that year of no new games.
I have a feeling that like 3 months into that year, you're going to be like, crap. Where's the new game?
Yeah. It's easy for us to say now. You're right. It would be 3 months.
It would be interesting, though, because our entire jobs would change. Like, the tone and nature of Easy Allies would be so different. Do you think we would just double down on the things that we're kind of already known for championing, or would we find new things, or would it be a mixture of both?
It would be at 6 months in is when I start doing top-down Western RPGs.
Okay. I want to see that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's what it's going to take, is 6 months of no new games.
Damiani, you said there hasn't been a month where there's not multiple things to play. I think about this week where you have Sonic Mania, Hellblade, Matterfall, the Night Trap re-release, Agents of Mayhem. There are things that I'm forgetting, even in that quick rundown. Is that too much when it's all crammed in a week, and there have been multiple weeks like that?
I do feel like I don't know how much goes on behind the scenes, but there are times when I just question why a publisher decides to put a game on a date when there are already so many other releases there. This year, I can maybe see that every week there's so many releases, like you just got to pick one. Like there's no choice. But in general, in the past, there have been some like really crowded weeks. And just like, why did they pick that week? Why couldn't they just wait one more week when there were no new releases, and maybe they would have had they would have dominated the headlines for that week? Oh, here's a new release, just this. I feel like if you have more than like 3 new releases in a week, one of them is getting the short end of the stick with that. And any additional ones, that's just too many. That's too many in a week, I feel like. And you just naming 5 or 6 right there. There's obviously more. It's just like, oh no, like only a handful of those are going to get like majority of people's attention.
Sure.
Which kind of stinks, but at the same time, maybe everyone's just like, there's so much discussion about these games going on that maybe the attention on games in general is just heightened. So maybe those smaller games might have a better chance because they're piggybacking on those big releases. Like, again, I don't know what goes on behind the scenes with publishers when they make those decisions, but part of me does feel really bad that I think that there's too many releases in a single week.
I think
hurts.
If we look at this week in particular, the game that got hurt is Matterfall. Mm-hmm. I think Matterfall got hurt this week, being on this week. I think, Sonic ate everybody's lunch. I think Sonic did fine. Mm-hmm. Nidhogg 2, I don't think, there's a lot of competition for Nidhogg 2. I think it was a fine day for Nidhogg 2. Agents of Mayhem, I don't know, put it out whenever you can. I don't know.
Right.
August is good for Agents of Mayhem. It was a good idea to put it out in August. I don't know if it really mattered at which point in August. But yeah, I think of Matterfall, and I was watching that trailer again and thinking like, man, this could have been a huge game. Next Machina could have been huge. It's so weird the way that the two Housemarque games have just kind of been plopped out with little attention, little hype behind it. It's weird.
Do you think that is usually the case when you have something like Sonic, which has a lot of emotions tied to it and its history, versus something like Matterfall, which is a new thing?
Yeah, it shouldn't be, though. And the trailer begins, from the creators of Resogun.
Right.
It should have had that behind it. Oh, new Resogun, baby. We all played that when it'll be our PS4s.
So you think that should have been emphasized more?
Yeah, well, I think the game should have been emphasized more.
Okay.
And maybe it will be. Maybe it'll be a free PlayStation Plus game at some point, like Resogun was. But yeah, it's just weird. It's weird for me that game come out on that day. And I mean, Sony's publishing that one. Mm-hmm. And for it, I don't know. I'm worried. I'm worried for Matterfall.
Do you think that is something that can have another life, or is it important that it is strong out the gate?
I think it's, for a game like that, way important. I think the only games where it's not important are more multiplayer-esque games.
Something like a Nidhogg.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. Something with an online community.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of online communities, we're talking a lot about the hecticness of the release schedule, but something that's curious to me that's been harder to get a handle on is I feel like there are sort of these games that are creating these significant moments within the scene, and I think like PlayerUnknown Battlegrounds is a good example of that.
Yeah.
Where there seems to be a certain obsession with that game, but us as Easy Allies, us being limited to 9 people and then those 9 people having different roles, we really haven't given it a lot of attention. Nowhere near the level of attention as not only other traditional gaming outlets, but other YouTubers, other streamers, and things like that. It's something that for a bunch of different reasons, we've kind of missed the boat on. Is that alienating to you as somebody who gets paid to talk about games?
I mean, my concern with that is that I feel even the outlets that do cover it, they have someone on assignment to really go on a deep dive into that game and spend a lot of time on it, more than just diving into a review. They get to, hey, you go play this game for like 2-3 weeks. Usually reviews, like, you get a week or two maybe for some of these outlets. They're like, no, keep playing after that. Like, we want you to, like, focus on the updates with the game, because it is a service-based game. They keep updating it. It's multiplayer. You really need to spend a lot of time with those games and get, like, to follow the community and really to come from a place of knowledge, I feel like. Otherwise, you're just rehashing what everyone already knows about the game. You're not saying anything, in my opinion, that's meaningful or insightful about it. And that requires a lot of time and effort, and those outlets, that's their assignment. Someone tells them, you are doing that, you're going to do that. We kind of don't have that here. Mm-hmm. I'm sure if like someone were like all 9 of us agreed, okay, so-and-so, play this for like a month and only do coverage on that, that would happen. But would our audience want that? Like, we're unique in that situation in that we have people paying us, telling us we want you to cover certain stuff. Mm-hmm. And I don't know, have you seen a lot of the community comments at all saying, why aren't you guys covering PlayerUnknown Battlegrounds? Like, why aren't you really covering that at all? Or is it just like, they haven't really covered it? Like, is there like a big cry for it?
I haven't really seen any maliciousness, but I've definitely seen questions of, hey, have they played this? Just general curiosity, for sure.
Ben, I'll tell you, and this kind of ties into what Damiani's saying. I didn't get it until I watched Danny O'Dwyer streaming PlayerUnknown Battlegrounds.
Yeah.
Because he gets it. He put in the time, and he understands how the game is played. And it's way more fun to watch somebody who wants to compete in this game, who's played it, put in the time, then somebody's like, oh, let's just goof around, let's panic, I'm getting shot, help me. Those streams aren't as fun.
Right.
Watching Danny O'Dwyer tactfully just work through that game, narrate his way through it. He didn't even have a webcam up. He's just talking his way through it. It was so cool, and I finally understood the game.
Yeah.
But as Damiani said, we're paid to just do what we like.
Right.
And I'm not into multiplayer games where I gotta shoot people and that's it. And so that's kind of like people pay me not to do that because my opinion on that game would be dumb.
Sure.
But I do. It was cool to get it. It was cool to finally understand the game. It was cool to watch that stream and get it. Because it is an interesting game. It's interesting game design. It's nothing I'll report on, but it's something I definitely respect. I dig it.
Yeah, definitely. I do think it is interesting kind of going from game trailers to Easy Allies, where both in terms of want and necessity, I think we do have to pick and choose our battles a little bit more. Whereas I think game trailers at a bigger site with more resources, you definitely felt a little bit more of an obligation to be broad. And even at game trailers that started to shift, and now I think we have a better understanding of our strengths, and we have a better understanding of what we like and what we don't like, and what we can speak to. And yeah, I agree. It's more important for us to try to be genuine with our audience and say, look, we're doing this because we want to, than force something out of this false perception of getting clicks or something like that.
Yeah,
for sure. And speaking of interests, Kyle Bossman, I want to know what you've been playing.
Cool. Yesterday, I just played Uncharted: The Lost Legacy.
Kyle, I came in
Yep.
to this shoot, and I said, has anyone besides Huber played Uncharted: Lost Legacy?
Yeah.
Hoping that the answer was yes, and you've played through all of it.
Played through all of it, yeah.
I want to hear about this.
Cool. This is one of those instances where we're lucky ducks. We had an extra copy. It was a review copy. Huber already downloaded a code for a review. We all rolled D20s to see who could take it home. It was here. It was right before Dungeons and Dragons. We each rolled a D20. I got a 19.
I think I recused myself from this.
Yeah. So I got to take home Uncharted: The Lost Legacy. So it's fun. Sometimes life like this can be very nice. I was trying to, leading into this podcast, I was trying to encapsulate my ideas about this game. It's very good. I think when you are doing a DLC only, it's its own standalone game. It's $40. You can buy it without even playing Uncharted 4. It's super important to explore new areas you couldn't in the original game. And so what the game does that Uncharted 4 doesn't, one protagonist, but two main characters that are new. You know what I mean? They're from the series, but you haven't played as them before.
Right.
And so there's a kind of a new aspect to that. But the thing that I'm crazy about is Chapter 4, the open world portion of this game. Basically, and don't worry about spoilers, unless that was a spoiler to you. You're given a huge map. You're given a huge environment. You need 3 things. Go find the 3 things in any order you want. There are tons of secrets all over this area, and even if you find all those secrets, there is a reward for doing that. That's optional, you don't have to, but the reward is helpful for the rest of the game. That hasn't been in an Uncharted game. That is a reason for this thing to exist, and it's fun. It's very, very interesting to have an open environment, go nuts, get in the car and go.
So it's a bigger environment than Uncharted 4. I'm trying to think of the level or the name of the chapter. The one where you're in the
Jeep?
The Jeep.
Yes,
basically.
it is bigger than that.
It's much bigger than that.
Yeah.
Bigger than anything in The Last of Us.
Yes.
Ooh.
Yeah. It is. And it's more open than anything in The Last of Us. It really is go and handle this in any order you want.
So you're talking about the size, you're talking about the openness. Does that affect the flow of the game at all? Do you lose any of what makes Uncharted so good? I mean, are they finding interesting ways of filling that space?
I think that is a really, it makes Uncharted good. Uncharted works in this dynamic, and I think that if there ever is another Uncharted game, it'll focus more on this. You don't lose anything. You still find new areas, and you feel like you found it. The character, and here's my criticism of the game.
Yeah.
Is that in an Uncharted game, it is no longer interesting to find a hidden city.
Sure.
Finding hidden cities is very cool, but not in Uncharted games anymore.
Right.
You lost an impact. You can't do that anymore and have it be like, oh, wow. And so later on in the game, you're finding hidden cities, right? That's just, I guess it's what you do in Uncharted games. That is not as fun as roaming around in this environment and rolling up to this thing. And then you can say, oh, whoa, I found it. I did this. And so it enhances that in a little bit. And the way that you find secrets, the puzzles, the optional puzzles that you were off on your own path doing are all interesting. And so you can fit all those things, temples and discovery and action moments. You can fit all of those in an open environment and it actually benefits from it.
So it sounds to me like the case that you're making is in previous Uncharted games, the thing itself would kind of be the focal point and meant to be the thing that would keep you interested, but that thing is no longer interesting on its own, and so rather than make that thing interesting, they're making the path up to that thing the focus and the interesting thing.
It's not the focus.
It's not the focus.
It almost feels like they stumbled upon a very interesting thing and expanded upon that.
I see.
It's front-loaded, the game. You know, it's like that's early on in the game, that big open area, and then there's a lot afterward.
So
that is more Uncharted-like.
When you say it's front-loaded, you were missing it then. You were missing it in the second half of that game.
Yes, and when I think back about the game, when I think of the highlight of what made it different, what made it special, what was really good about it, it was that first part.
Sure. Something interesting that you said to me, you said it's no longer interesting to find a hidden city in Uncharted.
Yeah.
I think you could probably apply that to a lot of things in Uncharted. You could talk about betrayal, or you could talk about an unlikely team-up, or you could talk about, ancient civilizations, all of this stuff. There are common...
Finding the bad guy deep into the temple.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So there are these recurring things here. Is Lost Legacy guilty of that, or does it find new ways of being Uncharted or remaining interesting, or at least, I don't know, doing different things with those ideas?
It does, Ben. There are twists that aren't shocking but are still fun. There are the dialogue is so good. These two characters are written differently than Drake and anybody who he follows with. Although I guess Chloe was your backup partner for some parts of two. Anyway, it's still good. The way it's interesting. There's two ways of saying good writing, good dialogue. It's just well-written dialogue that people speak like people and they're voice acted like people, and that is so important. I think it is a strength of Uncharted. But the story, there's really good stuff in the story too, and revealing of characters. But I mean, at the end of the day, why do we do this thing? Why did we tell that story? What is so different about this adventure that they went on? And I think that's the thing that's not that different. That's the thing that's why did we tell that story? What was important here? But everything else about the characters, about the dialogue is strong, and that's why it's enjoyable to go through it. It is a different Uncharted game. It's not completely different, but I mean, it's huge. It's a huge game. It's weird. It's a standalone DLC for sure. But it makes sense as standalone DLC in the ways that it's not different, I guess I would say.
Just out of curiosity, roughly how long is it?
I think it's 6 to 8. I can't tell you how it was a 3-session game for me.
Sure.
It was a 3-session game.
I've definitely had that happen where you kind of just go through it and then you think, wait, how much time did it actually consume?
Yeah.
So you talk about them talking like people. What specifically humanizes these characters, these treasure hunters, in a way that's different from what we saw with Drake in Uncharted 4?
It's funny. There's girl talk. You'll be driving in the Jeep and they'll have girl talk. That's strong. That's actually really good. But there's also more natural talk. You know what I mean? They don't always have to be talking about relationships or what's going on in your past. But hey, wasn't that weird? Wasn't that crazy? Didn't that suck? Just having characters remark on things is strong.
They're processing those things, and those things aren't just happening. For sure.
And I even like how contextual some of the dialogue can pop up. You pick up a secret item that somebody missed, and they'll say, "Oh, I missed that." That's cool. That's a really, really cool thing. I like that. I like hey, kind of biffed that jump. Yeah, I'll get it next time. Like that kind of thing. It's interesting that they'll have commentary on the things that you would be thinking about in that moment.
Sure.
And I think that's always really good.
Dominique, what's your history with the Uncharted games?
I've played through all of them except for The Lost Legacy, but I haven't played any DLC with any of them or any of the multiplayer.
Okay.
I played through 4 this past December, so I played it late and finished
You streamed
it later. Yeah, I streamed it, and I also didn't have the Crash Bandicoot secret spoiled for me, which blew some people's minds. Like, how the heck did you not see that? I'm like, just didn't see it.
That's super fortunate.
Yeah. I've always enjoyed the story in the games. That's primarily why I played through them.
Yeah.
And I always like they're one of the testaments to the PlayStation's like visual power. Like those games are like a visual showcase. Naughty Dog does a really good work with the animations and the environments
and this game too. These environments are just gorgeous, gorgeous looking place. I was taking screenshots all the time.
Oh, were you?
Yeah, with the dumb share button.
We share them on Twitter.
No, just to keep.
Okay, just for yourself.
How weird is that? Like, sometimes I'll go back through my screenshots I've saved and like look, oh man, video games. It's really dumb and dorky, but Uncharted is the kind of game where it's like, wow, look at this.
Breath of the Wild was that.
I do the 360 camera spin when I get to those moments. I'm just like, yeah, let's check it out. The one thing that always this is a personal problem, not a complaint against the game. It's just the shooting mechanics in the game, all of them have always kind of been a problem for me. They don't always like click the best for me. I'm used to shooters having some kind of like auto correct or auto aim, especially in like first person shooters, like you aiming down barrel and stuff. It kind of like snaps a little bit.
Uncharted's got a little autocorrect for you.
Yeah, it's called I turn on auto aim.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, if you want it,
and then I get yelled at by everyone in the stream about that's not how you're supposed to.
How you want to play?
They're like, that's not how you're supposed to play Uncharted, Damiani.
Play how you want to play.
That was going to be my follow up question. Is you said you came to these games specifically for the story. Did streaming it hurt or help that experience in any significant way?
There definitely were people. It was definitely a little bit annoying to have to deal with people anytime I get frustrated apart. And I was like, listen, like, these games, like, I don't play these games for any kind of challenge. I just want the progression. I mean, yeah, I want to figure things out. I do like a little bit of resistance in these games, but when I'm dying multiple times at a part, that's like a huge turnoff. So I'm turning on, like, that's when I would turn back on auto aim. Like, nope, I'm just going through and shooting and stuff. Like, I don't, like, Drake's supposed to be a crack shot. Like, if I'm terrible, like, this is breaking my immersion. I get it. Some people, it's like, oh, I like the shooting mechanics in the game. So that rubbed me a little bit the wrong way of sharing that experience with like a community of people rather than me just playing by myself, not streaming it.
Yeah.
But that's why I always qualify it by saying like, listen, like I'm just probably bad at these shooting mechanics.
So
like,
wait, did you play through 4?
Yeah.
So here's what I like about 4 and Lost Legacy are your options for not shooting. There are portions of the game where it's like shoot your gun, you have to, you've been alerted, but there's a lot of like non-annoying stealth mechanics that I really like.
Yeah.
The tall grass I love. I realize it's impractical, but it's just a nice, fun video game thing. And I actually like swinging. And so you can just kind of, you have a lot of motion. You have a lot of ways that you can navigate this environment that the dumb enemies won't. And there's a lot of ways, even up until basically the final stuff, you can still be stealthing most of it.
Yeah, and the way that it worked well for me is a lot of times I wouldn't make it through completely stealth. I would get like 50 to 60% of the way there and then get found, but it's like, oh, that's still 60% of the work. Now this fight is a lot more manageable.
Yes.
And so having those options was very much appreciated.
Yeah,
for sure.
definitely. And I like that about this game and other games that let you do that rather than it just being a fail state when you're found in a stealth type game. Like I love games that reward you for playing with stealth when it's an option. Obviously, like the Arkham games, like love that. If you're really good enough, you can just go in, walk into a room and just fight everyone, even if they got guns. Assassin's Creed, you don't have to really be stealth if you know how to like do the combat system really well. But when they reward you for using that stealth, like clearing a whole room in any of the Arkham games or an environment without like being detected is like, oh, so good, like so good. And Uncharted. It's pretty good too when you can actually pull it off. I think it's harder in Uncharted.
Good. Yeah.
It's definitely harder in Uncharted because I think they want you sometimes to have that experience of let's give them a chance to take out some of those enemies.
I think that's the design.
We want those fights to happen. We want those firefights to happen because that's how it probably would go in real, like closer to real life. Like you're not going to take out 20 guys as Drake and not get noticed. Basically, yeah.
Kyle, maybe it's an unfair question, but how does this compare with Left Behind, the Last of Us DLC?
Ooh, that's really interesting. This is more fun than Left Behind, but with Left Behind, you got a much clearer, different idea of why they made it. Of, okay, let's tell this story. Let's make a very different type of little game right here. Left Behind speaks more for itself, I would say. This is a more fun video game.
Okay. Would you want to see another story focusing pretty much exclusively on Chloe and Nadine?
Yeah.
Okay.
What I was telling Damiani is this Lost Legacy proves that Uncharted could star anyone.
Okay.
You can make an Uncharted game with anyone as the main character, and it'll work.
Do you like Chloe and
all those other things.
Nadine better than Drake and whatever person he happens to be rolling around with?
Well, it depends, because if you had Sully, then we're having a discussion. If
Right.
it's Drake and Sam, we could say, yeah, but let's go to Chloe and Nadine. You know what I mean? If
So that
it's-
second person is vital.
Yeah.
Okay. But to me, that says a lot about Chloe and Nadine. That
Oh, they're great.
there are situations where we could absolutely have that conversation.
They're a great duo. They're very funny. They bounce off each other very well. And again, yeah, really, really good performances.
Nice. All right. What else have you been playing?
So, I don't even know why I started this game. Cosmic Star Heroine. I think someone just said it was good.
Yeah.
And I saw a screenshot that looked like the Millennial Fair from Chrono Trigger.
Sure.
Is that what it's called? Or is it Millennium or Millennial?
I think it's the Millennial Fair.
Okay.
But I could be wrong on that.
Abstain.
Okay, yeah, I know.
I should probably abstain because I'm not 100% sure. I
The
think
opening
it's
of Chrono Trigger.
yeah, the
Yeah,
opening,
the opening of Chrono
Trigger. I think
saw
it is the
that,
Millennial Fair.
And I was like, oh, this might be really cool. And Ben, it is. It's a Chrono Trigger game. It's the Cosmic Star Heroine is a Chrono Trigger game.
So I've played somewhere like 3 or 4 hours of Cosmic Star Heroine,
Yeah.
and I feel ashamed because I loved what I played so much.
Yeah.
And it seems like you like it as well.
Yes. And I like the combat system a lot. And so my first impression of this game is that it's kind of like a low grade homage RPG, like it's meant to have this retro look. I did not expect its combat system to be interesting, and it totally is. There are mechanics in here that I haven't really seen in other games that play off so well in a turn-based RPG.
Yeah, it's not just, all right, we're going to like take this template and twist it a little bit. It's like, no, here is a really complicated, well thought out, totally new battle system.
Yeah.
And that's so commendable, yeah.
So to explain it to anybody, even explain to Damiani right now, basically, Damiani, you have 8 moves. You have 7 moves and a recharge. And so once you use a move, it's gone until you recharge again. Mm-hmm. And so basically you have the option of going through each of your attacks, each of your moves, because some of them are heals, some of them are buffs and debuffs, until you recharge, and then they refill. And so when you recharge, you cannot attack. And so it's that risk of,
Okay.
when do I recharge, when do I use my new attacks, that kind of thing.
It sounds a little bit like Magna Carta.
I have no idea what Magna
Okay,
Carta
sorry.
is, man.
Magna Carta is like you have like a points for each skill. You can use them in a certain order, but once you use them, like you can't use it that turn, and then you have a cooldown period after you've used all of them to like recharge the energy to reuse those moves.
You could call it a
But
cooldown.
it's real time combat. It's not
Yeah.
turn based. It's real time combat.
But you could have, I think you could totally call it a cooldown fairly. It's just all of your attacks have the same cooldown, basically.
Does doing them in any different order trigger unique like extra bonuses?
So some
or
of them
anything?
will be
Okay.
like, yeah, your next move will do double damage. Your next move will be very effective, things like that.
And do you have to use all your moves in each turn, or can you save some for like the next turn? You
No,
said
you-
you have like 8.
You
Sorry.
can absolutely save them for like specific opportune moments. So like there are going to be times where you're going to want to use something at a specific moment to maximize the amount of
Okay.
damage.
And this is another genius part of the game is that, basically it works like every 3 turns your attack will be super effective. And so you want to save your best move for that 3rd turn. In fact, you want to buff up to that 3rd turn. So it's just like, okay, you help me here, I'll help you there, this character's there, and then when I'm finally glowing on my 3rd turn or 4th turn, it changes depending on which character we're talking about, when that character's finally glowing, they're ready to deal serious damage and they're unleashing it. It's cool. It's really cool, like you think ahead of time a lot with the way the system works. You're planning a lot.
So I've got a few questions
Yeah.
and one clarification. It is the Millennial Fair
Okay, phew.
from Chrono Trigger.
Yeah.
Great.
So we got that. Second, how long did it take you to wrap your head around this combat system? How long did it take you to get to a point where you're like, oh, I get this. I know generally what I should be doing in each fight?
Ben, I think they ease you into it really well.
They do.
And you start with not too many moves. You start with like 3 moves. And so it's really easy to think, okay, use my 3, reset, use my, I should reset now. And then just the way that new moves are introduced, new characters are introduced who are more complicated, things like that. Ben, yeah, I never felt confused by it. I did have to like check the menu because their status effects have different names and things like that. Like there's
Sure.
Rust. I'm like, what does Rust do? Things like that. But I played it on normal. I think on harder difficulties, you have to master other things. Like other things, Damiani, like the longer you stay alive in a match, you get a percentage, and that percentage adds basically a damage multiplier onto every attack you do. But there are attacks that you could just flush it out and do a really strong attack at that moment.
Okay.
And there's a lot of buffs and debuffs about that percentage. I think it's called style. And so it's like there are some characters who are all about style and buffing everybody's style, so we're all doing extra damage and things like that. And also this weird thing that a mechanic I never utilized, where if you're at 0 HP, you get 1 turn of super damage. So this idea of like really risky, like let your characters die just to unleash super damage is part of like surviving on hard mode.
I mean, can you see the hit points of your enemies? Like, 'cause I could, if
Yeah.
you could calculate, if you did the math, you could figure out like when you want to do that.
Yeah.
Okay. But you never used it.
I
Were you
never.
too scared?
I didn't die too much.
Okay.
So not dying too much, kind of bouncing off that, you've finished it, and so
Yeah.
you've seen a lot more of the game than I have. Did you feel like it found interesting ways of making you think about fights, of challenging you, of putting you in different situations throughout the game?
Yeah, and the way they do that is not by new enemies necessarily, who are just like, well, you need to use a different tactic to kill me. It's more, oh, this character just got this interesting new attack that's going to change. You know what? You're in the party now. Another thing I really like that this game does is levels up the party continuously. Nobody's left behind. And for that reason, you go back to the other character like, oh, you have some good stuff now. Let's see what these things do. And so, yeah. I would say that the challenge was low on normal mode, though, to be honest, I wasn't grinding so much, but I was finding everything. I was doing every possible side mission
Sure.
I possibly could.
So it just sounds like they do enough job, do a good enough job of naturally incentivizing you to want to try out new things because they make those things interesting.
Yeah.
You were talking about hard mode and this sort of mastery that it would require. Is this something where you enjoy the battle system enough that you want to return to it?
No.
Okay. And is that just a Kyle Bossman, I've seen this story, I've been to this world kind of?
It's that. It's exactly that, Ben. This is the kind of game that I take pleasure in getting the platinum in because the platinum is just do everything there is to do in the game. No grinding.
Gotcha.
Like for 15, Ben, all I need to do is level up fishing and survival.
Sure.
But I'm not about to spend 3 hours fishing. I won't do it.
Sure.
I won't get that platinum. But in this game, the platinum is kill all optional bosses, do all optional side stories, and they're all actually kind of interesting.
Cool, yeah. A couple of things. So it sounds like you don't, like, you like the platinum, you like the experience of getting it, but as long as that has some connection to experiencing the world and experiencing the characters.
Exactly. So the exception was there's a trophy for killing the first enemy on hard mode, and that's why I have some idea of why it is so hard to play through the game on
I
hard.
can get that.
Yeah.
It's amazing to me that we're talking about an RPG and you open with the battle system.
Yeah.
Or you haven't talked about the characters or the world. You've kind of alluded to the side stories and how all of those are interesting. How are those interesting?
So here's the thing. There's 3 big worlds, we should say. There's 3 big maps to the game. I guess we could say like 3 years if we're thinking like Chrono Trigger style. 3 timeline, whatever. It is, and what I love in an RPG is when those worlds mean something, when you come back to those worlds, when you come back to those NPCs and something's happening with them. And that's what I really like. You have a recruitment. You can recruit NPCs basically to be a modifier to your party. And so it'll be like, oh, you'll do 15% more damage, or you'll have this HP boost, just depending on who like your additional recruit is, which is fun. It's silly. It's not a huge factor on anybody who you pick. But it's cool to have that interaction with an NPC who's not like, oh yeah, I'll come with you now. That's fun. It's fun to do that. The story itself, Ben, is like, it's silly. It is not mature, but I still enjoyed going through it. I was not shocked by a twist. I was not impressed by any dialogue. There's a lot of grammatical errors in the dialogue. So you kind of get the impression that like it wasn't the most important part of this game, and it isn't. And it is weird to say that for an RPG, but the game's about its style and its worlds, and I do like the characters. I like an RPG where my party can be like mostly like monstrous weirdos, and I was absolutely allowed to have that in this game. And also, they were good. Those monstrous weirdos have some really good stuff, really interesting RPG battle mechanics that I hadn't seen. So let me just, that's not a spoiler. Here, this one's so cool, there's a character who has a thing called Sing, and basically you load up a song, you sing it, and then you're dealing an additional damage on each consecutive turn. And so he kind of sucked for a long time.
Yeah.
He wasn't a good guy, but like because he had that Sing move, I'm basically like, he's doing good. He's doing like damage per turn, he's good. Eventually he becomes godlike. Eventually he becomes like super, super good. But it's just like fun for me to have that like this like damage optimization of like per turn, who can like do the most things per things, but also have them be kind of like abnormal RPG characters is cool.
Do you feel like with all the characters in the game that you kind of had a similar experience where you could find a use for them throughout the entirety of the game?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't think there's a weak character.
Okay.
I think like writing wise there are weak characters, absolutely, but oh, that one's such a spoiler. And the side missions are fun. The side mission, like, see, I wish there was one for each character, like a cool little additional side mission, additional boss to go on. But those that do have them are so fun and interesting.
So if you play it, do the side stuff.
Yeah, do the side stuff. It's fun.
So there's a game that I played that I was fortunate enough to review, and the first person I thought of when I finished it was Michael Damiani.
Whoa.
And that was Shovel Knight, a game which
yeah,
I adored.
Yes.
I still adore to this day. Happy to sing the praises of Shovel Knight at any moment. But I was like, Damiani, play this. Like, you would like this game. And his obstinance with it, like, he just wouldn't do it for, I think it was well over a year. I don't remember exactly how long it was. Mm-hmm. And then the crushing way that I found out is I just went up to him and I was like, hey, did you play Shovel Knight? He's like, oh yeah, I finished it. Just like that, like, quick, oh yeah, that happened, didn't tell you. The reason why I'm bringing up this story is because the combat is so interesting, because it has so much style, and because Damiani has a lot of experience with classic RPGs, I want to know how he feels about it. I want this to be the new Shovel Knight.
This is a game that has been on my radar, and then in the back of my mind, it just keeps saying you should probably play this at some point. You should probably play this at some point.
Yeah.
And just with Shovel Knight, there will be a moment where I'll just be like,
it will happen.
I'm playing it now. Mm-hmm. Some of these games, I don't feel like, I've learned over time, there isn't a pressing need. If I'm not responsible for the coverage for it, I don't need to play it right away. Mm-hmm. I've come to terms and kind of at peace with, I don't need to try and play everything right away.
Sure. Like,
games are still going to be good late down the road. At least the ones that were really good. If they don't hold up as well, maybe they weren't as good as you thought. Or it might be, I mean, I'm not saying like wait decades or, 5 years plus or whatever, where it's like, okay, obviously things have moved on from that game, new features, but within a reasonable time, I feel like I will get to this game and I'll sit down with it and I'll be like, yeah, I'll probably enjoy it and be like, yeah, everything Kyle said was true. I like this about it. And I do get, like, at the same time, it's like, well, man, play this so we could, like, talk about it as well. Mm-hmm. But there are just points where, like, especially Shovel Knight, I was like, everyone's just telling me to play that. I guess there's some weird part of me that, like, gets an aversion when everyone tells me to play something. Sure. It's just like, okay, stop.
I get that way too.
It's like, just stop telling me what to do, because then you're putting me in this mindset where I'm now going to be more judgmental about this game, possibly unfairly.
Yeah.
And I don't want to be in that mindset when I go into that game. I want to go into it where I feel good, positive, and I give the game the best chance of wowing me. That this is, like, I'm more receptive to this game. And there will be that moment for this game as well as it was for Shovel Knight. And after I played it, like I was like, yeah, this was really good. Ben was right. Like, yeah. So,
I do know what you mean, and it's hypocritical because I'm part of the problem where I just get so excited about it and I just want you to experience it and I want your opinion. Because I think what it feels like when everybody is recommending something to you is they care less about your individual impression and your unique experience. They just want you to join the team, so to speak.
Yeah.
Where it's like, hey, this thing is awesome, and we've got this party going on for X game. Come join the party. And it's like, well, is this more about the fanfare? Is this more about the party, or is it more about the game? And there have been moments in my life where I've had the benefit of coming to something later, and I feel like I was able to respond to it in a better way because the party had died, I guess. So to speak.
It's a good metaphor because, you know, when you're having a good party and stuff, it starts organically with those close group of people. The more you start adding, and especially when they're being told, oh, this is a great party, come to it, like, it's diminishing returns, like, as time goes on with that. And always to be clear, especially if it's not clear to our audience and stuff, it's like, I never am doubting anyone who tells me, oh, this game's really good. If someone on Twitter tells me, this game's really good, you should check it out. And I don't check it out right away, it's not like, it's not me saying, I don't believe you. Like, I don't trust your opinion. It's just like, you're probably right. I just will get to it when I feel ready to try it out.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
On your own time. Ben, I want to say one last thing before we move on from Cosmic Star Heroine.
Please.
And it actually kind of ties into Uncharted as well. I think the best thing a story can do in a video game is make you want to see the next thing to pull you forward. And Cosmic Star Heroine absolutely does that.
Okay.
It takes you to new and interesting places that are creative and interesting and different from the thing before it and escalating upon itself, so much so that even if the dialogue is written poorly or silly or goofy or has little stupid errors, you still want to see what's next.
Sure.
You still care about what's next. And Uncharted the same. You know, I can say like, it's not that different, but the story at all times drives you forward, makes you want to see what's next. And so I think they're both good stories.
Yeah, even with my limited experience with it, I definitely got that sense. I think about sort of that first jungle-ish area that you're in, and then when you approach it, like the way the birds fly off the tree, or like how every screen has like something meaningful to interact with and investigate.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I got a sense that there was a lot of care put into every single place that you could go, and that was really cool. What's your last game, Kyle?
My last game, following the rule of Frame Trap with me, I got to bring a VR game. Dino Frontier.
Now, this just isn't any VR game.
Yeah, you're right. This is the one. I've been waiting for Dino Frontier.
Yeah.
Dino Frontier is very good. And here's an interesting thing I said on stream that I got to stop and reckon with. I said if I was playing this game with analog sticks, I would not enjoy it. And that's the thing with a lot of VR games is like if this was on a screen with just a regular old controller in my hands, I would not play this game. And so it's weird. It's good. It's to me, some VR games are built that way. They're like, yeah, we wouldn't want to be on your TV with an analog stick. We were designed to be a VR game, and this one clearly is. To explain to the audience what Dino Frontier is, it's like a city building RTS. Right, think of that kind of thing. Like you're building a little city, you're building a little village, in the Wild West, and there are dinosaurs. There just happen to be dinosaurs, and the reason there are dinosaurs is because that would be a fun thing to see. The dinosaurs are there because it's fun. And because you can, basically what I love about it is the way that you can manipulate the map, the way you can zoom in. You can almost zoom in to scale and be a part of the map, look up and see those dinosaurs the size they would be to everyone else. But you can shrink it and they're the size of toys. And so just having that ability and just freely do it and easily do it. And just like the two Move controllers actually work pretty well in this instance. Again, they're not as good as the Vive controllers or the Oculus Touch, I presume, but they function in this environment and it works really well. And that's the joy of it. The joy of it is building yourself a little dinosaur ranch.
When you say they're here because it's fun,
yeah,
I'm curious: does the game kind of state that, or does the game just kind of assume that? Like, we know this is fun, you know this is fun, and
yes.
It's sort of this unspoken agreement.
Yeah, the game does not care to justify why dinosaurs are here.
Okay, it just throws them in there
yes.
and has a good time with
and
it.
Accepts them as if this is normal.
Mm-hmm.
Really kind of fun narration. It's like a guy doing a Johnny Cash impression, like singing songs and loading screens, but also he calls you Big Mayor. He's like, "Hey, Big Mayor, why don't you do this next?" And so like it's very guided, but in a good way. I think it might be another VR thing. I think in this environment, you need to be as guided as they are, as they tell you to do through this game, because you wouldn't think to like reach around behind you to pull up this little what do you call it when you're a painter and you have that flat thing that you have little dots on?
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. It's like a big flat weird shaped disc and you have little dots of paint on it, and you would use anyway, you have like that, basically that for what you're building next. But like, why would you like, oh, okay, obviously I should look behind me and pull it over and like things like that. It takes a while to get these mechanics. What's up, Ben?
This is a little bit off topic from Dino Frontier,
Sure.
but I think it's an interesting thing to bring up. You also host a podcast, the Easy Allies podcast. Do you ever have that moment in the podcast where you know what the most repeated comment in the episode is?
Always, yes.
Okay, so we just had that moment.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah. We saved it with Millennial Fare, but there's no way any of us are coming up with what that thing is called.
There's no point in even correcting it now. Yeah.
Yeah, and so it is very guided, but it's just such a fun environment to be in, and it's fun to build and to have that reaction to your buildings, to be able to see them micro and macro is cool, and that is why I like the game. It feels good to be in this environment and manipulating this environment and feeding the environment as much as you get to.
So you talk about it being a pretty guided game throughout the whole thing. How does it change substantially from the start of it to the end of it?
So there is basically a tower defense mode that is in part of the game, and so you'll go over there. There's like a farming area too. There's a farming area, a tower defense area, and like a final boss area. But like if you're into like that raw like gameplay, that's where like the tower defense is, and you can like upgrade. And again, just zooming in and being in the tunnels behind the turrets and seeing the things that they're shooting at it's so cool. Generally though, Ben, like if you're talking about like my village versus your village, the difference is going to be where we placed things. I think we're all going to max out everything as much as we can, and we're all going to tame the same dinosaurs and things like that. And so yeah, I think that practically our experiences won't be that different, but it really is just about you being in there.
Yeah.
Being inside of that is where the value of that game comes from.
It might be kind of a strange comparison, but just based on my VR experience, it kind of reminds me of Job Simulator. Because you think about Job Simulator and the tasks that you're doing are just, they're not that complex, they're not that interesting on their own on paper, but it's being in that world, it's having something come up to you and have a conversation with you, it's moving things around and seeing what they can do. To me, it kind of sounds like Dino Frontier understands that like inherent appeal of VR, and just kind of like too many mechanics, too much depth might actually kind of take away from how much fun it is to be a part of.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Absolutely.
Cool. I need to play this. Damiani, we've got like pretty outspoken people about VR. Kyle, I would say, is like the top champion of it. I also really like it. Huber really likes it. Ian talks about it sometimes. Jones talks about it. He's been into it. Where are you at with VR, man? How do you feel about VR?
I mean, again, preface this by saying like I can't really play VR too much. Mm-hmm. Just like a lot of first-person shooters, like it adversely affects me, so I can't play them for too long without being like, okay, no, like it's making me sick.
Yeah,
we call it the queeze.
Yeah. Not using that as my defense mechanism there, but regardless of that, I still don't feel strongly about VR. I never have. I think it's at the best spot it's ever been. I don't know if it's going to get any better than this, where it is now, and I still think it is very niche. I think this is as popular as it's gonna be, and it's not gonna get any more popular than this. I don't see a long-term future for VR. I feel like another year or two, it's like Sony's just gonna be like not even talking about PlayStation VR anymore.
I agree with you.
When they move on to the next system, there will be no VR.
I agree with you that it's a niche. I agree with you that it probably won't grow to be huge. I disagree that it'll go away. I think that it'll just sustain. I think that...
I don't think it'll be on PlayStation. I mean, PC will always have a place. I think Vive will always have a place, and I think that's where future VR is.
Damiani, what if I told you there are way more PSVRs sold than Vives?
Probably.
Not even probably. That is a fact.
Okay, if that's a fact, that's cool.
Yeah.
But I still don't...
You think that's a stronger market than PSVR?
There were a ton of Kinects sold for Xbox as well.
Very true.
They were like,
all right.
Nope.
All right, very true. Very true.
Because there's no way they're going to launch PlayStation 5, whatever next thing is, saying VR is an integral part of this. And I feel to push it further and expand the audience, it needs to be like part of the actual framework. It needs to be there. And Sony's not going to do that. Sony's not going to make a system around VR. And that's not happening, so I don't think it's going to get any more successful than what it is right now, which is a peripheral add-on experience for your console or PC. And I think long-term, it'll have more success in PC market once PSVR goes away, and everyone's like, oh, I still want my VR fix. Oh, it's still on PC. There are PC options. I'll go with that. I don't know. I'm sorry. Like, I get... When you talk about, like, it needs to have simple mechanics, it can't have too much depth, those are the games that work the best. Those simple pleasure games.
Yeah.
That's all great and wonderful, but I don't know. I don't think those games sustain you for very long. You want more. You want more. You want like the next game for VR. And
see,
I don't like. I hear of a new must play VR game like every few months maybe. Whereas like with regular games like you just have to wait till next month or next week. Like we're in an odd spot now where there's too many releases, but historically I don't think you have to wait as long for the next good traditional video game as you do for VR. So I feel like you play it for a bit and then it's either a short-term fix or you're waiting for the next big thing and you just want more and there's not enough to satisfy. This is for me. Like I just don't see it being very satisfying for what it cost. I don't think it's worth it.
My argument against that is something that I don't think anyone has effectively figured out, and that is what you gain from VR is very hard to articulate in a way that we're used to articulating things about video games. And I think a lot of that has to do with the age in which VR has been out, because I think a lot of what you're saying is true. There are a lot of shallow, short-term experiences with VR. There are a lot of derivative experiences with VR. But when you find something, and as Kyle says, it is good to just be part of that world, it sort of makes up for or has something that traditional video games don't have that you cannot understand by somebody explaining it to you. And I think you either have that frame of reference or you don't.
I feel like every VR game I've ever tried, like in terms of immersion factor, I think a lot of the worlds that like what they're presenting to me, because of the limitations maybe of technology, look a little on the cheap side compared to what I can see in like traditional games. Like it feels it's like my brain just being told you're 100% in a video game. Like it's just it doesn't. It's a little it's definitely more immersive because like you can see things all around you in that world. But at the same time, my mind is rejecting it so much and just like kind of like almost laughing at it. It's like this is a gimmick. Like this is haha. Like technology is not there yet. Like VR is definitely improved, and I don't mean to be too brutal on VR technology, but to me personally, until you have like holodeck level technology in Star Trek, I don't care about VR technology. Like that's never going to approach a level of immersion that I think would satisfy me, which might be ridiculous, but also in terms of like gameplay, like controls and stuff like that, I feel like I don't want it to be me doing the controls. Like you can really do this. You can reach out and touch this or whatever. Like I like the simplicity of games in that I push a button, I can do anything as simple as a jump to complex maneuvers. It's all like the traditional interface. I might be an old fart with this, but like traditional button inputs is all I'll ever want. I don't want, like, when Wii happened with motion controls, this is why I'm so adverse to motion controls, and VR is a further extension of that type of stuff where I'm just like, no, I don't want this. Like, for me. That's just for me. If you like it, cool. But I'm not saying for it to go away. This is just why I reject it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I agree with a lot of what you're saying, especially about the technology and the work that it has to do to get there. I mean, the bulk of my experience has been with PlayStation VR and times where I need to recalibrate, or just the display of the unit itself, or like you can feel the headset get uncomfortable after a period of time. Like there are things that remind you that you are experiencing a video game. But my number one example, and if we're talking about sheer immersion, some of the most that I've been immersed into a video game this year is Resident Evil 7 with VR. To me, like I was so terrified in a way that I couldn't have been without VR. The feeling like it is all around you and that you don't have an escape was a kind of horror experience that I don't think I will ever forget, and is something that I want to feel more of.
I do see that, because I got to try out RE7 at E3 last year, the VR experience.
Yeah.
So
Was
I did
it the kitchen demo?
Yes,
Yeah.
I got a taste of that, and I do see that. But again, this is just like a personal issue with me. The move when I had to move in that game, started getting sick, and now I'm fighting motion sickness,
Right.
Which is working against what the game's trying to do. So that makes it hard for me to fairly evaluate. That's why I try to. I know I'm being a little fire and brimstone with this, but like I try and stay away from that perspective as much as possible, because I do have I get sick when I play it, and I don't think I'm the best person to speak about VR.
Sure.
Like, you need to get someone who doesn't experience that, but also disagrees with what it's presenting. I would say they have probably a more valid point of view than I would.
I also got very sick when I played Resident Evil 7 VR, but the more that you do VR, I think the more you get acclimated to it, or at least that was true for me at a specific point. And I'm so into that because it means I'm just becoming closer to becoming a new life form.
Yeah, prepare for the future,
yeah,
Damiani.
I'm just preparing for the future.
We are more ready for the
holodeck.
singularity than you are.
Right.
I want the holodeck because it'll simulate acceleration forces. That's part of the.
No, you're going to step in the holodeck and you're going to get queasy. And meanwhile, Ben, we're going to be fine.
Yeah.
We'll have the experience.
No,
You'll be
we'll
like,
have
oh,
digital
the
cells.
holodeck makes me sick. I'm never going in it
Kyle.
again.
It's not just VR. The stupid 3D
No,
Harry Potter ride.
I get the quiz too. I get the quiz from VR
It's when
games all the time,
it's when
dude.
movement as visual movement
Yeah.
is not matching with how my body's detecting motion.
Yeah.
It just my brain just says no, this isn't right.
Oh, I hear you.
And it doesn't like what's going on.
It's
And
ridiculous for us to say, Damiani, play a game that will make you sick.
Yeah.
We shouldn't do that. And yeah, I get that. I actually, Ben, I avoid all games with movement now.
Ah,
All VR games. With
Interesting.
a left analog stick for movement, I won't do it.
okay. I did not know that.
Yeah.
And you still have
I know I should
VR
build
games
up.
to bring to every frame.
I know I
That's
should
cool.
build up resilience, but it's just I don't want to step into a thing that's going. I know will make me sick. It sucks.
Just preparing for the future. Kyle, is there anything else you want to say about Dino Frontier?
No, that's it. We had
Okay.
a really good VR discussion. It's good.
Good. Well, I've got some news for both of you. Damiani has got us caught in a frame trap.
Oh,
Yeah.
I know it'd be Damiani.
And it's interesting because normally the words that are chosen, the words or phrases that are chosen are pretty outlandish.
Yeah.
But this one was a seemingly normal word. It was niche or niche. Both are acceptable. I've looked this up. And the reason I think
Kyle's dead.
what the demons have told me, the reason why this was chosen as the word is its proximity to Nishiki. So that it has a connection. So that what I'm learning about the lore of this alternate world is that past words that got us caught in a frame trap, similar sounding words also share that power.
Oh,
so that's something to
interesting.
keep in mind. So keep track of the words that we're saying.
It's not fair. I would have never said niche. That would have never come out of my mouth.
Right. But Damiani,
You just
not
said
so
it.
careful.
I would have never done it, Damiani.
Not
Sure.
so careful. But I have some good news. News that you guys have not gotten to experience before. We have an additional benefit. We have
Okay.
some benefactors. We have some kind individuals who are buying us some time, some sponsors who are giving us some time to get out of this frame trap. And the first of those sponsors is Argos of War. Argos of War is a first-person World War II experience that redefines the survival genre. Launching with an unrelenting 16-kilometer environment and featuring an innovative multinational warfare system, foraging, hunting, salvaging, bunker building, NPC, and resource management, and a deeply customizable job system, your strategic and survival prowess will empower you and your brothers in arms to battle towards multiple paths of victory. Argos of War is more than just another survival game. It's a love letter to World War II and survival fans alike. Follow the development of the project at Argos of War for daily updates. Last Frame Trap, I said that it was at Argos of War. That is incorrect. It is at Argos of War, just like the game. Our second sponsor is a new one, somebody we didn't have last episode. Our second sponsor is ExtraTurns.com. Built by gamers for gamers, Extra Turns is a brand new community marketplace to sell your games, collectibles, electronics, and memorabilia. Their commission is half of that of eBay or Amazon, and a flat $2 rate for nearly all used games. Don't get caught getting pennies on the dollar for your trade-ins, and don't pay exorbitant fees to sell your thoughtfully curated collections. Extra Turns is the online marketplace to get the best value for your items and make sure your buyer will appreciate their purchase for many extra turns. Like and share Extra Turns on Facebook to be entered for a chance to win an SNES Classic this holiday. Love and respect, ExtraTurns.com. Our final sponsor is Adam Barker. Adam Barker is a freelance illustrator available for commissions. Do you have a character you play in your role-playing format of choice that you'd love to have painted? Or maybe you have characters that you want designed and painted for a personal project? Then don't hesitate to send Adam an email at adamrobertbarker@gmail.com so he can get the ball rolling for your artwork. You can also check out his previous work at adambarker.artstation.com. And right now, I'm going to be flashing some of Adam Barker's work on the screen, so you can take a look at that. And all of these sponsors will be in the description if you'd like more information. But the heart of it, this Caught in a Frame Trap, what you both will be responsible for getting us out of, this mess that you got us in, Damiani, you take even more responsibility, is it's all about subtitles today. So I'm going to give you a subtitle, and then I'm going to give you the first part of the title. So I'm going to give you a subtitle, and then you have to find the title that it belongs to.
Cool.
I'm going to give you 3 options of titles that subtitle could be paired up with. You have to give me the correct one. Now, we don't have buzzers or anything on Frame Trap. So what I would like you to say, if you would like to answer, is you need to get close to the mic.
Yeah.
And you need to say Nishiki. And the first person to say Nishiki gets to answer. If you get it wrong, the other person gets a free guess.
Okay.
Are we ready for the first subtitle?
Yes.
Let's do it.
The first subtitle is Of Myths and Monsters. Now, do not answer, do not buzz in before all 3 options are read. Of Myths and Monsters. Does that subtitle belong to A, Maximo, B, Age of Mythology, or C, Kid Icarus?
Nishiki.
Yes, Kyle.
B.
Age of Mythology?
Yeah.
That is incorrect.
Nishiki. A.
That is also incorrect. You're both wrong.
Icarus.
So Kid Icarus Myths and Monsters is a 1991 Game Boy game.
Game Boy. That was what I
man.
feared. It might be the Game Boy one.
Wow, well done, Ben. That was tricky.
We are... Wow.
We might not get out of this frame trap.
We may not get out of this frame trap. We may spend the rest of the podcast in a demon realm. Of course, there's our friendly helicopter who likes to join us for every episode. The next subtitle is Project Phantasma. Does this belong to A, Armored Core, B, Mech Warrior, or C, Steel Battalion?
Nishiki.
Yes, Kyle.
Armored Core.
Correct. 1 point for Kyle.
What is that game?
That I have not played Project Phantasma, but is a follow-up. It is a 1997 PlayStation 1 follow-up to the original Armored Core that takes place after the events of Armored Core 1.
Wow.
Is my understanding. But like I said, I've not played it myself. Number 3, we have The Demon's Forge. Does that belong to A, Hunted, B, Dungeon Siege, or C, Divinity?
Nishiki A.
Correct. Hunted the Demon's Forge is the name of that. That's a 2011 last generation game that came out on 360, PS3, and PC. Damiani's on the board. I can't tell if this is intentional sandbagging or not. I guess we'll have to find out.
We didn't know. We didn't know of Monsters and Myths. We just didn't know.
Yeah.
We gotta
That was
play
the
game.
one that I thought would be the easiest.
Oh no! So it's only getting harder.
Well, I don't know. It was hard for me to gauge how tough these would be. Number 4, Ties That Bind. Does that belong to A, Fatal Frame, B, The Suffering, C, Siren?
Nishiki.
Kyle,
B.
The Suffering?
Yes.
Correct. That is 2005, PS2, Xbox, and
Stressful,
PC.
man. This is
The
stressful.
Suffering, Ties That Bind.
The multiple choice makes it so hard too. You've really lumped the games together well.
I've tried. Yeah, that's what I want to do. Is I want to
Yeah.
make you doubt yourself
Yeah.
and your existence in the frame trap. All right. Number 5, Cursed Memories. Does that belong to A, Growlancer, B, Shin Megami Tensei Devil Survivor 2, or C, Disgaea 2?
Nishiki.
Yes.
Shin Megami Tensei 2.
No. Oh. Incorrect. You get a free follow-up, Michael Damiani.
What were A and C again?
So the subtitle is Cursed Memories. Option A is Growlancer. Option C is Disgaea 2.
Yeah, pick one.
We have doubt.
Yeah, because I don't remember Disgaea 2's subtitle at all. I only remember 3 on. Nishiki A.
Incorrect.
Damn I
It is
should've gone
Disgaea
with C.
2.
You got us, Disgaea.
But that means, so 3 of the 5 were answered correctly by at least one panelist. Kyle wins by 1 point, 2-1.
Doesn't feel good, Ben.
That was not our strongest, like most confident
You know, like
caught in a frame trap.
you go home for like a family reunion. You know, Kyle knows everything about video games.
Yeah.
Kyle knows so much. He knows everything there is to know. I know 5% of what there is to know about video games.
Yeah. I mean, it depends. Maybe was it thinking about the titles backwards like that?
No, you said some games that I've no. There's no like. You said some games where I'm like, I've heard of that before. I could not draw you a picture of what that game would look like.
Kyle, I need to say this
Yeah.
because it has now changed future caught in frame traps.
Yeah.
I am not trying to pour salt in the wound to either one of you, but I thought I made that one too easy.
Yeah.
And
The
that
audience was
The audience is screaming.
they're kicking and screaming.
The audience is screaming, but that doesn't matter
They're gonna
because
send me a ball of spikes in the mail.
a ball of spikes?
Yeah, I'm gonna
Why?
get home and somebody sent me a ball of spikes just
That's
to teach me a lesson.
What person would punish you for not knowing video game subtitles with a ball of spikes? Don't do that.
Is it a palette, by the way? I was thinking maybe it's called a palette, the thing that you use to put paint on.
Don't bring this
Okay,
back.
all right, okay.
We know nothing. The important part of this, the reason why we do it, there's a practical end. That end is getting out of the frame trap. However sloppily it happens, it does have to happen. And Kyle, you were successful in getting us out of the frame trap. How would you like to initiate that escape today?
I want to do a throwback. I was just thinking that I want to do Zorro's Z, and I want to just have it just the wall of the frame trap burn red and then flap open.
Oh. By all means. Is it just me? Or did it get hot in here?
I'm sweating.
No, it actually is like a sauna in here. But that's it. That's going to be Caught in the Frame Trap for today. Thank you so much, sponsors, for making
Thank you
that
for buying
happen.
us that time.
Thank you for buying
sponsors.
us the time.
Whew.
We're back to talking about video games. Michael Damiani, what have you been playing?
So, on a whim, this past week, I decided to play through Bloodborne again.
Okay, the first question I need to ask, and I have to ask a question right away, is Bloodborne is a game. We've talked a lot about playing games and the time that you arrive to them. Bloodborne is a game that we've covered a lot on Easy Allies. There have been a lot of opinions on Bloodborne from multiple perspectives. And, you know, Kyle was saying, follow your heart. I agree with that. That's important. But you were also, Damiani, you mentioned the right time.
You do realize I said play through again.
Yes.
Yeah, you're like, I'm trying to keep up with everything. You're like, I got all these new games, I can't keep up with it all. And then you're playing through Bloodborne again?
That's kind of what I'm getting at. Yeah.
All right. Okay. Go with your heart.
I just had a sudden urge. I was just like, I'm tired of all these new games. Bloodborne.
You're tired of all these new games.
Bloodborne calls to me.
They don't satisfy me.
I was like, you know what? I just miss that feeling of parrying enemies with that nice gun, just walking up and doing a visceral attack. I was like, I miss this. I want to play this game. I love that world. I want to play the closest thing to a good 3D Castlevania I'll probably ever get. So I decided to play through Bloodborne again. And I played through, so to back up a bit, I did play through it when it came out. Played through it when it came back in spring of 2015. It's like was it April, May, March, some point in 2015.
Yeah.
So I was already, like, I was just about to be kicked out from GT, basically.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, I'm going to play this game because this world looks so cool.
Yeah, and you have one of the most interesting perspectives, I think, on the Souls series, because you haven't played through Dark Souls 2 or 3.
Correct.
But you've played through Dark Souls 1.
Only Dark Souls 1 and Bloodborne. Though I played through Dark Souls twice. And I kind of did it like back to back, like immediately. And then I played through a little bit, like played through some like extra stuff when the DLC came out because I needed to get some shots for an episode of Pop Fiction back in the day. But Bloodborne, I played it through twice immediately when I first got it, and the first time I played through it, I just focused on Saw Cleaver and Blunderbuss or Shotgun. I focused on those two and pretty much didn't try anything else until I got starts with the T, the like electric.
Nitrous?
Yeah. Then I got that and I was like, I don't have enough arcane to use this. So then I went to go grind because I was like, oh my gosh, this is so cool. So I spent time grinding enough echoes to get that, and then I started going around with that. I was like, yeah. So I basically had Saw Cleaver and that.
I love the Tonitrus.
I had such a good time with that.
You were like looking at Damiani romantically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dami and I, we never agree on anything. I'm so shocked.
I was like, man, I got I love like the black like wizard outfit or whatever. I was like, and then like the white like the healing rope.
What wizard costume? There's no
Dark.
wizard.
No, it looks like a dark like warlock or druid or something. It looks like a wraith outfit.
No.
Yes, there is.
No, you're thinking of something else.
No, totally.
You're
It's
thinking
like,
of Harry Potter, I guess.
No.
I don't know what you're doing.
It's like a black hood. Kyle, you're in control.
The thumbnail for this episode is just going to be your character that
Yeah.
you're going to have to send to me.
Yep, send in the character.
I named my
It's
first
not.
character Von Damianicus.
Yep.
Wait a minute. Wait, question. So since Damianicus kind of became an internal meme, have you named every created character Damianicus?
No,
Okay. Have you
Just-
named many?
I named a decent amount.
Okay.
That's to be worthy of the legend of Damianicus.
Okay.
Yes. So this is Von Damianicus, who's going to hunt. I'm going on the hunt to have a good time. I really like Dark Souls. The appeal to me of Dark Souls originally was the seamless nature of the world and all these like zones that you just come across in different orders. Whereas in Demon Souls, from what I played of it, I only played through the third world of that. The having the hub environment and then having to go to these worlds, it didn't have the same appeal to me as when I got Dark Souls. Like Dark Souls, like, okay, this is it. I like this. This is more thing. I can deal with this combat style and the punishing sort of difficulty and having to go back to like the last bonfire you lit if it's seamless, because I feel more incentive to go through this world. I want to see what I can find next, whether this is kind of like the level you got to go through. I was like, no, I don't like that. So I get a lot of people like the things they're doing in Demon Souls, especially the was the term for the thing that like would influence the world, the
world tendency.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That's how like people love that, and they're like, oh, Dark Souls doesn't really have that or something. But Bloodborne, I just like the world's aesthetic. I liked how it felt like this was going to be the closest thing I had to something that was like a spiritual successor to Castlevania. Mm-hmm. I was like, man, Konami, this is what it's supposed to be. But also the combat in that felt, even though it still had that stamina system and you get brutally punished for trying to like go whack-a-mole and everything, it did feel a little faster paced to me. Bloodborne, fast enough that it was to my liking and I like that style, and the parry system of that game clicked more easily with me than it did with any of the actual Souls games for some reason. Mm-hmm. So Bloodborne's like, oh, I can do these visceral attacks really easily. I love this. Like this is for me. My problem in Bloodborne has always been against the hunter type enemies, like the humanoid enemies. Those ones always pose the most trouble to me. So, but they're the ones I'd have to summon someone like, please help me. Like this is a little too hard in my first playthrough.
Yeah.
But like the monsters, like Amelia Vicar, I was like, this is great. And I first two tries, I would get like my butt wiped, but like I wouldn't want to say like my ass kicked. So I was trying to replace something with that.
Saying I don't want my butt wiped is far more vulgar.
Thank you.
It's so Damiani.
Okay, I didn't want to get my ass kicked. There you go. I'll say what I mean. I should not try and like beat around the bush. So I didn't want to get my ass kicked by it, and I paid attention to the patterns and stuff because that's how you're supposed to play these games. And like I just had like such a good time with that. And trying to figure out, like, okay, does fire work against this? Like, does electricity work against this? Like, is there a time? Everyone keeps saying, like, you can't, like, visceral attack this. Like, oh, yeah, you can. Just, like, wait for that timing. Even on bosses, they all have one. It's great. Like, this is really good. For some reason, despite, like, dying a lot, I just had such a good time with Bloodborne. Mm-hmm. And that, after the first time I played it back in 2015, I was like, this is good. I'm going to come back to it. I just never did, and I wanted to get that final secret ending with the 3 umbilical cord things. Yeah. I wanted to do that. And so this time I was like, yeah, I'm going to do it this time. I'm going to do it, and, you know, chat can help me out with anything that I don't remember.
Yeah.
And so people are like, oh, have you played this game before? I was like, yeah, I played it 2 years ago, and I never touched it since. So some things seemed really familiar. Some things was like, I kept using the quote from Lord of the Rings, like, I have no recollection of this. So I'd be like, chat, I don't remember this at all. I'm going to screw up a lot, which is good. So it's good to kind of re-experience some things like almost like they were new, but then they start clicking again. But then I got to go to places I never went to in either of my previous playthroughs, like the Upper Cathedral Ward. Never went there before. I was like, whoa, nice. What is this whole area? Yo, what is this like giant ballroom with these like wolves that are hiding there and the stupid mind flayers are just hiding behind corners, like the orphanage. I was like, yo, this place is great. Why did I miss this? The one hanging from the chandelier that falls on. The wolf that comes through the window like Resident Evil style. I was like, hey, yes. And then like everyone's like, oh, you're coming against this boss that's going to wreck you. And it was like the alien one. I was like, this is it? And like, no, go break through that glass right now. I'm like, what's down here? And then I saw this like white dragon weird thingy. And I'm like, oh, crap, this is going to probably kick my butt. And then one shot at it because I had an NPC tank it basically, or mostly tank it, and every time I'd pull aggro I'd be like, oh, I'm gonna play safe, let them take it back, and I'm gonna get in there and beat it. And everyone was like, that's not fair, it makes the game way too easy when you use an NPC. I'm like, well, I'm just like, sorry, like cheese is the name of the game. And they get so angry when I'd use walls to like get an enemy to come up to it. I could like use like Ludwig's blade to like clip through it and hit them. Like this is Souls. It's like come on, like this is what makes it great.
Did you play the DLC?
So no, and when I told Brad and Huber after they were asking me about like, oh, you just recently played through Bloodborne again, dude, how do you like it again? Stuff, and they're like, did you play the DLC? I'm like, no, and they're like, Damiani.
Yeah,
I was like, Damiani, come on. I was like, well, here's the thing, I hadn't bought it yet, so I was already playing through it, and I was like, oh, I don't have it yet unlocked, so sorry guys. Plus, I was like, I just want to get that secret ending. This is really what I want. And they're like, if you go forward with this, you're gonna have to replay. I'm like, no, I already have a save file for my. I started a new save file for this recent playthrough. I already had like a level 148 character who's near the end of like a third playthrough. It's like, oh, they can play the DLC at any point if they're really close to it. I'll just pay and unlock that. So I'll probably go back and play the DLC at some point on that file. So I have a file there. But
2019.
2019.
Yep, another 2 years.
But yeah, like just going through that again was just like so much fun. I didn't do any of the Chalice Dungeon stuff because I did that the first time I played through that. I spent a lot of time in Chalice Dungeons. I remember going through, I think Marco and Miguel joined me to go through some of those, and that was really fun.
I bet that was chaotic.
Oh, it was definitely chaotic. Some really...
Did you have to like resummon them after each one? On each floor,
we had to like, the matchmaking system at the time was kind of screwed. Like it was having problems. There'd be points where like we clearly had our settings correct to join, and just would keep searching to like get to start our session. We're like, we get frustrated. Like, all right, we're gonna go do something else for a while. We'll go play, single player. We'll come back in a little bit. But that was right at launch. Okay. When I think there was a little bit of problems with it.
I think they did change how that works.
They've patched it and stuff, so I'm sure it works just fine now if you can find someone. I got invaded by a player at one point in the Nightmare Frontier, and I got to experience firsthand the latency problems of, oh look, we're clearly far apart. I'm walking aside. Oh, I got hit out of thin air. Wait, what? Yeah. What just happened? I was like, yo. If everyone's like, oh yeah, that's you got to get used to it. I was like, no. I was like, how do you get used to this? Like some people do apparently. It's like, no, I cannot deal with that. That's janky. But I guess it's part of the experience there. But it was so fun. It was close. I did lose, but like I wasn't like completely blown out. Maybe the person was being nice to me.
Yeah.
But just that again, like you can get invaded at any time. That's like great. Yeah, just such a good amount of memories rushing back as I played through. And I love the Hemwick area with the witches and the witch of Hemwick boss. Like I just really like that music. Like as it like revs up and gets more haunting and stuff and intense. That whole area, I just like really like that area for some reason. It's like so good.
Kyle, it looked to me that you were kind of dusting yourself off a little bit when Damiani was talking about his struggles with the hunters. Were you implying that you did not have such problems?
No, I'm with the people who said it's cheap when he summons in an NPC.
You're with them.
Yeah.
You don't like that.
Yeah. That's weak.
You think he's ruining his experience with Bloodborne?
No. I just think like he's like a little patty cake baby. Like that's why I'm shaking my head.
Okay, I did want to get that exact wording.
Okay,
yeah. Who doesn't want his butt wiped.
I have, except for that Upper Cathedral Ward boss, the one everyone told me would wreck me. Mm-hmm. I have beaten every boss in the game without an NPC ally or a summoned person solo.
Yep.
Including the secret boss.
I have the trophies for all the bosses. So.
Nice, dude.
Nice. Yeah, that's good.
Oh, you mean the final ending boss? That one, not either. I don't
think you can summon somebody for that.
Yeah, you can. Oh. A nice ally in chat helped me out with that one. Okay. But like, I didn't get to them. Like, I was at a point where I was like, I was so tired. I was like, I already beat the fight back 2 years ago.
Sure. But you didn't. It was the final secret fight.
Oh, I know. I didn't know that was going to happen. I had no idea there was going to be an extra boss part. Mm-hmm. So now that's the only one. That one and the Upper Cathedral Ward real boss of the two, I have to go back and beat solo at some point.
To touch on sincerity, though, I don't care how anyone beats the bosses. Like the most interesting thing about Bloodborne to me is its world and is exploring it. Because, I cheese my way through the end of Dark Souls 3. I love the idea of this game. There's no map. There's no waypoints. Huge environments, huge parts of the game are hidden behind tiny corners. And somehow we all managed to find those tiny corners. We all managed to just roll jump into this thing. It's like, oh, this is the place. This is a whole thing.
Yeah.
I love how there are so many different ways to go. Like you're like, am I going the right way?
Yeah.
How cryptic items are in terms of unlocking stuff. Like you really got to pay attention to the descriptions, but also listening to conversation. Whenever you see like that light by a window or something, or you hear someone, you need to like stop, strike up a conversation with them. It might seem like meaningless, but when someone's like, "Oh, to the right of the cathedral, there's this like little like place you can go through, some like not a hut but like a structure of some sort." That was what was ultimately led to the Upper Cathedral Ward. I was like, oh, that's what they were talking about. I needed a key for that. But those conversations, like almost like old school NES games, give you those cryptic clues of that's how you find out where you're supposed to go somewhere. But like just finding random stuff in the world and being like, what is this for? Like what are you gonna do if you didn't read a guide and didn't watch a walkthrough of what to do?
I even love the doors you knock on and they're just like, "What are you doing on the night of the hunt? Good luck to you."
And then
Oh,
just
yeah, that's
creepily
crazy.
laughing at you.
Like
Yeah.
just stuff like that is like, why is that there? But it adds so much to this
Yeah,
world.
because the
I
world
love
is
stuff
slowly
like that.
falling into madness.
Yeah.
And then like the whole thing of, I know Brad, like Bloodborne lore expert.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I always interpret it as like the recycling of going back to the beginning of being on the table at the transfusion and like it's just all gonna be a bad dream. It's like I always took it as like it's Total Recall. Like, do you know, is this all a dream, or are you like, is it really happening? Like I always interpret it as it's really happening, and but the way you're seeing stuff is not how it is. Like you are actually bad. Like these people are seeing as like nightmarish enemies. The blood in you is affecting how you perceive the world. So you're really killing all innocent things. Like everyone there is like good, like they're innocent.
And then
and
they
stuff.
say, "Away, away,
Yeah,
beast."
like they
I
talking
hear
to you. Like
I hear
when
ya.
you kill someone, like this city's finished. And, like they're talking about you. Like in the hunters, like the hunters are bad. Like I mean, this might not be right.
It's an
That's
interpretation. I
That's
like
what my
it.
interpretation.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
liked it. I was like, this is great. Like you just slipped into madness here. That dude at the beginning tricked you. He's tricking all these hunters into becoming evil. This bad blood inside of you. But yeah, like you can get the point I want to make though is like you can get as much from the lore as you want if you like really try and like strike up a conversation with everyone, read all the item descriptions, you know, discuss it with people online, be like piece together the clues, sending NPCs to other places, like the whole thing about find a safe space, tell them to come here. And it's like, oh, you can either send them to one spot or you can send them back to, the medical ward area. Like, oh, but that's not a good place to send people. Like, why? Ooh. Like secrets and stuff like that. It was really good.
I really thought I was helping people out. By
Oh yeah,
sending
you
them.
thought?
I thought I was helping them.
My first playthrough, I did
Yeah.
too, and I was like, crap, that's not right.
It's like, oh, this person seems sick. I got your back, buddy.
It's so cool that you've revisited this game that you played. I mean, honestly, not that long ago. I mean, it hasn't been like 5 years or 10 years or something like that. And it seems like you have not only like the same level of excitement and appreciation for it, but even more so than you did when you initially played it. Like it seems like this second run through has made you love it even more deeply than you initially did.
Yeah. I when I was playing it the first time, it was new and stuff. I did have a group of people that we were all discussing it and giving like insight into it, but having chat like concretely explain stuff on the fly for certain things, like, oh, I want you to answer this for me. Like, tell me how this works. Oh, great, deeper understanding. But just I think this, my general level of knowledge in respect to like how things work in games made me appreciate it more, even though it was only 2 years later. Or like, because not many games. I mean, there are no games really like the Souls. I mean, there are a few that try to be, but Bloodborne to me is very unique, and there isn't anything else out there quite like it other than Souls games. It's just so good, and I just see myself like, yeah, you were joking, like 2019, like, oh yeah, I definitely gotta go replay it, not just the DLC, but
cool.
replay it through it again. And then as I said, I played Saw Cleaver mostly through the first playthrough. This one, chat was like, oh no, get the Ludwig's blade. Like it better. Like I tried to Kirkhammer at one point. Like no, it's better than a Kirkhammer. Like try it out. Like, and I really liked it. I was like, okay, I'm gonna try and focus on the more like slow and methodical, like heavy set swings with the love that R2 on that.
Those two are my go-tos.
Yeah, and then switching to the faster pace with parrying, I was like, it felt like stance dancing to me more. Like my first playthrough, I focused on this like the saw cleaver like pretty much extended. I like for ranged a lot. I'd use that, or I would literally just have it like closed up, do the basic combo at the end, extend it for that last hit or whatever to cheat the stamina a little bit, which was it felt rudimentary. It felt good, but like it was such a simple combo, and it was the only thing I was really using. Whereas this, I felt like a lot of enemies, I was like, I want to get that visceral attack in there, but I might not fully finish them. I want to like have options. So like I found myself quickly toggling between I call it stance dancing because, like faster stance, like with the two weapons versus heavy set where you're slower.
Yeah.
I liked that. It added more depth to the combat that I previously didn't appreciate before, and it just totally enriched the experience that I had with that game because I felt the combat was even more rewarding when I was able to execute stuff like that on an enemy, especially bosses, toggling between that while dodging. I was like I felt like I was like wailing, like wrecking these enemies and being rewarded for actually having a competent strategy against them. At times when I actually had a competent strategy, there were times I had really bad strategies. There was like, whoops, that didn't work. And there were some bosses that were not kind to me at all. Like I got a little angry at a few of them, but
it's part of the process.
Experience.
Yeah. Outside of revisiting Bloodborne and having that capture you so much, what else has been occupying your time?
So today is 2 days ago. This past Wednesday evening, played through the entirety of Sonic Mania.
I've also played through the entirety of Sonic Mania. Kyle, have you played Sonic Mania?
Yeah. I don't know how deep I am. There's a lot of levels to this game.
There are a lot of zones.
I've seen my third Chaos Emerald cutscene.
Okay.
And so I don't think I'm even that deep into the game. I think I'm 30% through it.
Okay. I don't want to tell you
less than that.
Like you could give me a level and I think I could tell you how far you have to go, but why say it?
Why do it? I am impressed by the breadth of this already.
Mm-hmm.
So, pretty much everything you have said about the core game in your review, Ben.
Yeah.
I agree with. And as I remember when you were playing through it for review, the Slack messages you would post.
Yeah.
About like, holy crap, you guys.
Yeah.
Like, so I think I had that moment at the first unique boss battle.
Yeah.
Chemical Zone?
It is a typical boss battle.
Sure. I think you're thinking of the Eggman
and I thought of Bossman.
Yeah.
Right? Yes. I was like, wait, what is this? Is this the boss? That was just insane that they would do it, but it made so much. I was like, yes, perfect. Like this is great. The way that game works in the history of Sonic series, in ways that aren't like, it's not memery, it's not a crutch, but it just complements what this game is doing so well. And I think it has so many layers depending on how big of a veteran you are with Sega Sonic series and Sega in general. Like, so I played it through it with my roommate Matt Simmons.
Yeah.
And he is like a way bigger Sega and Sonic buff than I am.
Yeah.
And hearing him point out all these things that were in there, like, oh, here are the creators' names, initials right here. Oh, did you know that during it's a stage I don't think you've been to yet, but there's a later stage where after a boss fight, there's a big screen behind it, and it plays a noise after it. And he goes, did you know that noise is from the 25th anniversary celebration when the noise was going wrong during the stream?
That's really funny.
They used it as a sound effect.
That is very, very funny.
What? I was like, where does it end here?
Yeah.
But just the actual designs of the level. So, real quick, I want to preface this by saying there was a gaff thread asking people, or a person asking, how am I supposed to play Sonic games? Like, they didn't get it. They were going to be new. Am I supposed to go really fast through these levels and complete it as fast as possible? Am I supposed to go a little slower and explore? And I feel like, for me, for Sonic games, you can try and do either, but I feel like the first playthrough is just go. I go with the flow.
Right.
Where I'm going, I go, and I don't try and work against it. The more you go, these games are designed to be replayed. as you go back through them and you learn the levels, you start to go like you go faster. You start to see yourself like, whoa! I can really see the appeal of going faster. But at the same time, it is very rewarding to kind of just like don't worry about trying to go everywhere. Don't try to worry about rushing through stuff. Take your time, and I think that this game balanced that very well. There are points where you go blistering fast, but you don't feel like you're out of control. And then there are points where like I feel like there's enough platforming and jumping here that it's a good mix of both.
Yeah, there was some talk that I saw that I thought was interesting, where people are like, "Oh man, there are a lot of times in this game where you have to go slow, where you need to think about how you're jumping and how you're moving through the environment because of the obstacles that it's putting in your place." And I thought about it, and it's Sonic has always been that way.
Yeah,
like it's always been that way. I think it is easy to get lost in the marketing, but think about Sonic 1. I mean, outside of the first zone for all three, Sonic 1, 2, and 3, like there are moments in Sonic 1 where it's like, okay, I'm slowly pushing this block into the lava. The block is in the lava. Now I have to get on it. It's like you are moving slow early on in those games, and I think like this game understands that. This game in its new stages feels like those older games because of moments like that.
And I think it knew that those moments have to exist because they are a core part of the older Sonic games. But they also did them, in my opinion, well.
Yes.
Because they knew they had to be there. And it isn't like, oh, just push the block into the lava. Oh, stand on this switch and activate this thing. It was actually, I enjoyed those parts. There was no point where I felt like, this part sucks. Like, they could have just cut this part out and they didn't need it from like, the single-player campaign.
I don't want to ruin it for people. I almost had that moment at the very last stage. You're absolutely right. Sonic Mania finds clever new ways of actually forcing you to move differently through the environment. There is a trick with these orbs where you have to move differently than you have been up to that point.
Oh.
I didn't understand them at first.
Okay.
Once I sort of wrapped my head around it, it was no big deal.
Simmons got a little annoyed at that part, even though he had already played through. So he had already played through the whole game before we did our playthrough. And we alternated levels. I can get stuck up with all the Act 2s and the boss battles. Then we got to that orb part you're talking about. For me, as soon as I figured out how to like move around them properly, like I actually liked it.
Yes, I did too. I turned around on it for sure.
And apparently that is those things are from a previous game. That's not new mechanics. It's either from. He told me it was either from Sonic CD or Sonic and Knuckles. Sonic 3 and Knuckles. He said, because I was like, oh, they're ripping off. It's kind of like Galaxy-esque or something, or Gravity or whatever. And he goes, no, this is from a previous Sonic game. I was like, oh.
I have a question.
I do not remember those at all.
I don't remember them either.
Are all of the zones from previous Sonic games?
No. There are totally new zones.
If anything, I will say, if they go, I don't want to get too far ahead, but like they do go forward with like another Sonic, 2D Sonic, I would like to see more of a balance of more new than old. I do think that there is a lot of the older levels, even though they're older themed, like older themes being brought back for the levels.
Yeah.
If anything was a crutch, it might have been that, like, oh, if every single level in this game was a new world, would that affect anything? And my answer right now is like, no. It still, I think, still would have been really good. So that would be my only slight little doubt about that I had going into it. It was everything looks like it's Green Hill Zone, it's Chemical Plant Zone. Like these are all old zones. And there might be new layouts to them, but they're relying too much. That got blown out immediately when I finished the game. I was like, did not feel that way by the end of that.
By the third zone, I would say it's already like eye-popping.
Yeah.
And this is something that I said in my review that I really believe is the crux of Sonic Mania, is that this is a game so intent on surprising you. I mean, even when you are in a place like Act 1 of Green Hill Zone and you think you know how everything is going to go, there are so many new things and ways in which things can interact, and then you get around to Act 2 and it gets crazy. And I think revisiting those old zones is okay. One, because they cram it with plenty of new surprises, and two, to me, this sort of seems like a recentering of Sonic.
Yes.
Where it is, hey, we want to show you that we can do this. And not only can we do this with the old stuff, we can do it with the new stuff. And what's incredible to me is that these new zones, I wouldn't be surprised if there are some people out there who think those are all old zones.
Yeah.
Like, that's how good they are. To me, the highlight of that game is some of those new zones. And part of the reason those new zones, I think, are so impressive is their ability to surprise, and the ability to make these great levels comes from a place of knowledge and respect. Like, you couldn't make it feel so good or so natural if you didn't understand Sonic as thoroughly as they clearly do. Like, blending, making, like, even the music. The music, I think, captures it perfectly because, like, there are songs where they have a little bit of a rap in them, and you're like, that sounds like it's from the 90s in not a cheesy way. Like, in order to make that sound like it came from a Sonic game from a very specific era, that takes a lot of work, and it takes a lot of research, and it takes a lot of care to make everything come off as naturally as it does.
I'm trying to remember the song or stage. It had something like, it had a part where it says like Ratchet or something.
Yeah.
And because like it was like just brought a smile like Simmons' face. He's like, this is like the coolest thing, and I'm like, what? And it's like something Ratchet. I was like, whoa, what lyrics in these songs? Like, whoa, we're going back. And then there's like one stage where the second act they changed the theme or the version to be like 80s guitar style. I was like, whoa, what are they doing here? Like, yeah, the music was like on point in that game. Like, even everyone in chat was just like, whoa, the music in this game is really good. I do want to talk about the secret areas or special like zones, because I don't want to attribute it to the wrong person. It was either Brad or Huber was complaining about one of them, and I know this is a debate.
The UFO chase,
the UFO chase for emeralds versus Blue Sphere. There's a lot of like debate over, do you prefer either? Do you like either? I loved the UFO zones.
Yeah.
I like, it was like F-Zero to me. I was like, yes.
Did you get them all? Did you get
anyone
Super
I
Sonic?
did? I got on my first try.
Whoa.
I laughed at it was a little unfair because Simmons did do attempt some of them before me.
Sure.
So I got to see them, but I was like, they didn't seem that difficult to get. But we didn't get to the later ones where apparently they do get a little bit more challenging, and like the time management's really more difficult with the rings and stuff.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
you really got to
They're
get the
hard,
rings
yeah.
and be careful
Yeah.
with them. But I did not successfully complete one Blue Sphere at all.
Interesting.
Where
I haven't either.
whereas
so far.
Simmons destroyed them, getting the gold medals and stuff, and I was like, what the heck?
The Blue Sphere special stages are this weird thing with games where I just see people that either get it and nail it like most of the time, or people who just flounder at it every time. It's this weird sharp divide with the Blue Spheres.
What I like about those is they're completely optional.
Yeah.
I've moved on and ignoring them. You
Yeah.
get medals to unlock special things that I don't necessarily care about,
Sure.
and so I've moved on from them. I'm
Yeah.
okay with that. Yeah. It's hard for me to critique it because it's completely an optional thing. You just jump on your checkpoints,
Yeah.
and you can ignore it.
I mean, I don't know if I like the half pipe special stages. They weren't in this one, but like
Right.
I don't think I like those anymore.
To me, the half pipe ones are harder than the Blue Sphere.
Yeah, because like when the rings get like in the air and stuff, you gotta get the right angle to jump on. Like they're a little annoying. I do remember though being able to complete all those eventually. Whereas I'm sure with enough practice, I could do the Blue Sphere. It just the turning. It felt like too many times it would accidentally like. I don't know if it was an accident, but it felt accidental that I was turning a direction. I didn't hit right. Why did I go right all of a sudden? It was clearly like me, like, you know, just like nudging it a bit because I was like, just reacted.
What are you playing with an analog stick? What do you mean nudging
D-pad.
it a little bit?
Like D-pad, like my thumb would be on neutral, but like clearly like I tilted it like
Okay.
my thumb had tilted a bit. Like it was really sensitive.
There's a specific rhythm to it, and once you find that rhythm, and once you like know how it's going to speed up, you just kind of like unlock it.
Even navigating this map though, Ben, sometimes you just like hit a yellow thing and it's like, oh, you're dead.
Oh, you gotta. I feel like you have to fail some of them first before you can ever, like. There's
Yeah.
only a fixed
Yeah.
amount of them,
Yeah.
and once you complete one, you don't go back.
I
to
do.
anything
I think you
play
get
through.
used to-
But
yeah.
like like clearly like Simmons knew what to do because he was doing the one where like you do hit the yellow one. And there's like a small like 3 blue orb thing. They gotta make like a narrow thing.
Yeah.
Bounce, and then he would like do like the jump over things, hit like the bounce back one, go backwards, be able to jump back over something, then correct. I was like, oh my! So like he showed how they were supposed to be played on most of them.
Sure, yeah.
I
And I was
want-
like laughing. I was like, oh my gosh.
I want to have a stream where we just do the Sphere special
Oh.
stages and see how everybody does, and we learn.
Can you
Apparently
just-
it's got a debug mode where you can.
I was gonna ask. Can
you
you
just go
access
around
them
and
through
do
the
stuff
debug?
like that.
Okay, because I know
Yeah.
you can't access the UFOs with that.
You can
So
kind
the-
of cheat. You can cheat to get a bunch of rings and then stuff like that, I guess.
Oh no, because it's the big gold ring.
Yeah.
If you set it there, it just gives you 50 rings.
Got it, got it,
You
got
can't
it.
actually jump into one you place and go to the UFO zones. 'cause they don't want
So
you to
this
see
is
it.
Ben. This is the thing I kind of want to talk about.
Yeah.
is because of the way that I like to play games is to complete them. Is to, like with Uncharted, find everything before I move on.
Sure.
Sonic, I tried when I first started playing the game. I tried to get that gold ring on everything. And what sucks is if you fail, you failed it forever. You can't go back to that gold ring on that particular level on that save file. So it's mean. And so I just had to learn to surrender the idea of getting all the Chaos Emeralds and becoming Supersonic, and then I started really having fun.
Sure.
And there's another thing I like about it is, at least in Sonic 1, the way to get the Chaos Emeralds is to finish the level with 50 rings or more. Because it's just gold rings now, it doesn't matter how many rings you have. And that actually makes Sonic way more fun.
Sonic 1 was the weird, rotating levels, I thought, for the Chaos Emeralds.
But it wouldn't, like, the way it wouldn't appear unless you had 50
Oh,
rings.
how
at
to
the
make it
end.
appear.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
because those are, like, the worst.
Yeah,
I
oh,
would
God.
scream
Yeah.
at that stuff. And then when you miss those, it's like, oh.
Yep. Sorry, you are not going to be Supersonic. Restart.
I did not do every single of either of the special stages.
Don't you
Like,
want to be
I-
Supersonic?
I do.
Ugh.
I do. But I also was like trying to get this done as
Yeah,
close
yeah.
to embargo as possible. So
But
it's
I
like
think-
I played it as many as I could.
Yeah.
I tried to experience as many as I could, and then
But anyway, it became a more freeing, fun game, actually, when I
Sure.
wasn't concerned about finding the gold rings and finishing every level with 50 coins. And it's really just about, like, plow through, have fun, and it becomes a super fun game.
I do think it's about following your heart, and I'm a little
Yeah.
bit hesitant on this because there are times where I've let go and the game dramatically improves, or
Yeah.
there are times where I've dug in my heels and the game dramatically improves. So it depends on my state of mind, I think.
I don't think it's Sonic. I mean, just Sonic's about replay me. And I mean, the game's designed that way
Yeah.
with the way you unlock characters.
Sure.
And, like, so replay me. Just go at it again, bud.
Speaking of characters, who did you guys play as your first time through? Did you play as Sonic, Sonic and Tails, or Knuckles?
I didn't know you got a choice.
Yeah, you can choose right from the get go.
In the save file, when you start, you
Yeah.
can pick
It's
your-
like Sonic 3,
Yeah.
the way they present it.
We did
Oh.
Sonic and Tails.
Okay, yeah, I did Sonic and Tails as well.
And then we
Yeah,
goofed
same.
around with Knuckles after we beat the game, which was fun.
One other thing I wanted to say about it is I really, really like the idea you can charge mid-jump. Basically, to explain that, you just press the button that you would normally do to spin dash so that when you hit the ground, you're going.
Yeah.
That's such a like that changes how you'll play Sonic forever. That's a huge minor change. That's so thoughtful. And really, the last thing I want to say about the game is that it's kind of like what Ben said. You couldn't. We need to make it clear it's not easy to make this game.
No.
I think for a long time it's like, Sega, just make a new 2D Sonic. It's so hard to do it. Christian Whitehead, I think, is the person who led the iOS ports that are good, and then came on. They just hired him to make this. I'm extremely impressed by this game. It is impossible to make this game, and they somehow pulled it off.
Yeah, I really do want to emphasize that point. I get bothered when I see criticisms that say, hey, in order for them to make a really great Sonic game, they just had to rely on nostalgia, and that's totally not true. Like there's so much in this game that is brand new that it stands on its own as an excellent Sonic game. It is not just repeating the good things of Sonic 1, 2, 3, Knuckles, and CD. Like it is its own thing and deserves to be recognized as such for sure. And I guess the follow-up question, just because Sonic Mania has been so fascinating to me, is what do you want from here?
Sonic Forces, baby.
What do you want from Christian Whitehead?
Yeah. We talked about this a little on the podcast, is what can they do?
Yeah.
And because I think that the next sequel, More Sonic Levels, doesn't do it. So Ben, we'll pitch this to you.
Okay.
We'll see how you feel about this.
Okay. Yeah, I've been out of the loop.
I think the studio is called Headcanon. Is that Christian Whitehead's studio? Whatever it is. Whoever made this game. Make Shadow good. Do it. Put him in there. Make the Sonic friends, the irrelevant Sonic friends, as good as this game is. And that's like the spin. That is what you do with the next Sonic Mania successor.
It's an interesting pitch.
Yep.
I think it could be done.
Yeah.
I think there's something that I would like instead.
Okay, what would you like?
Instead of trying to carry that weight,
Yeah.
okay? just make a new character. Just make like going through those new stages. I trust your, I guess, your knack for visual design. I want to see what new character you think of.
Sure.
Let us truly move forward in the most literal sense. Like, give me a new character. Give them something that is completely unique, that there is maybe some gimmick like a Tails flying or a Knuckles gliding or something like that. I believe you can do it. I believe you can come up with that crazy mechanic.
Man, the Aqua Shield and the Fire Shield, again, my Sonic Legacy knowledge isn't solid, but those are huge. Those are just so cool. Are those new?
No, those were introduced, I believe, in Sonic 3.
Oh, okay.
And you could do...
I love those.
Yeah.
The
so
special moves they give you?
Right. You could do... like things where like in the bubble you're bouncing or the flame shield you're shooting forward. That stuff is not new. What is new, I mean, there were some interactions with the environment before, like if you had the lightning shield on, it would automatically draw rings to you. But like there's an oil zone where you are lighting the oil up with the fire shield.
Oh yeah, I burned a bridge. I was like,
burning
whoa,
a bridge.
whoa.
That stuff is completely new.
It's so cool.
Yeah,
it's really cool.
Super cool.
Very thoughtful game. Yeah. Yeah, Ben, I do think you need a twist. A new character or something. I think you honestly, Sonic Mania 2 can't just be more levels. Because I don't think you'll have the same huge, just like, oh, finally. That won't be there next time. And so I think you have to evolve it in some way. But for the time being, this game is great. It's flawless, you know? It's just so good.
Yeah, even when I was writing the review and now when I'm speaking, I'm almost doubting myself a little bit. And I think that speaks to the quality of the game when I'm talking about what is new and what is old, where they've blurred the lines so well, where it's like, I'm pretty sure, but maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah.
Maybe they just made it feel new. I don't know. And so, yeah, I think it shows how good of an understanding they have, where they're able to take these new things and just mix them with stuff that you've seen before, you've loved before, and it's just make it exciting.
That's so hard. It's so hard to do.
Yeah,
like Sonic 4 had that team behind it, and we felt like, hey, this doesn't feel right. Bad job.
But why do you think that is? Why do you think we have something like Sonic 4, which absolutely was an attempt to go back to the roots of Sonic, and everybody says it doesn't feel quite right. It doesn't capture it. What does this do differently? What is the most essential thing that this game gets that those other games didn't?
Ben, the complicated thing is that it's 100 things.
Yeah.
This game gets 100 things right. And that's really, I think, the truth of it, is that there are so many things, like we said, music, bosses, sprites, physics, mechanics, new things, old things. There's so many considerations. I can't believe that this was pulled off as well as it was. It's 100 things. Sonic 4 also got 100 things wrong.
Yeah. It's crazy because with Sonic Mania, I feel like you can go through and like what Damiani was saying about the screen and how crazy of a reference that is, and it's a game filled with crazy minute references. At the same time, I also need to take a high level approach and be like, yeah, they just made it feel right.
Yeah,
that's really important.
Yeah,
like it feels like exactly as you expect it to, and that's obviously a very crucial thing as well. All right, Damiani, what do you want to close us out with today?
Real quick, I finished playing through Final Fantasy X HD. Another game replaying, though it was in HD this time. So I finished up going through Sin and the final Seymour battle. That music during that last battle, I don't know if you remember or if you experienced it, so good. And I for a second I thought is this the new arrangement? Like, no, I checked it, nope, this is the original version. And this is how good it sounded back in the day. Just really good. And while I saw some more flaws in the ending, obviously because things have not aged well, like even the CG stuff is kind of cheesy. The writing obviously isn't the best, and the voice work, I mean, it was a novelty for the time because it wasn't really being done a lot, but it wowed people back then. But now it's it's not the greatest either. So I definitely saw more cracks in the ending that I thought was like really good, like an amazing ending when I first played through it.
Isn't the final boss just like a weird shape?
So the final boss, how it works, I mean, that's the real final
That's all
boss.
I remember is a weird shape.
You fight Jekt.
Yeah.
You fight Jekt, who has two forms, which I forgot he had a second form, which is hilarious.
Final Fantasy X spoilers.
Yeah, he has two forms.
Yeah, huge spoilers there.
Huge spoilers. Big spoilers. For
Damiani
2001.
opens conversation talking about the ending of Final Fantasy. You're right, that was
Yeah,
bad.
that's how I finished. Two forms of Jekt, and then when you beat him, is basically a victory lap for the real final boss, which is Yu Yevon, and you have to kill all the Aeons so that Yu Yevon cannot inhabit another basically Aeon, so to become the next Sin.
Mm-hmm.
But you have auto life that never goes away. So there was even one point where I accidentally did the wrong move, and the enemy countered by killing all three of my party members, which should have been a game over. They all got auto-rezzed.
I'm fine with that. I'm totally fine. At that point, why make me reload the save?
I mean,
fine.
the leading theory, like the leading theory from people who played it a lot, because it's never been said, is that they think that originally the Jekt battle was balanced too difficult for new players. That they just got feedback from playtesters that it's a little much to ask them to beat Jekt, and then all these Aeons their levels are based on how much you level them up, and then fighting Yu Yevon at the end as well. It's like that's a little bit much. Which I was like, wow, Final Fantasy games usually don't give you an inch. But
wait, you have to fight all the Aeons again?
Every Aeon you have to fight. You have to defeat every
Even
Aeon
like
you
the
have.
sisters, like the
Yeah,
Bee
if you have the
sisters?
Mega Sisters, if you have
I would argue
Anima, if you have Yojimbo, you got to fight them.
Huh.
I would
sorry.
argue that Final Fantasy games definitely give you an inch.
On the more difficult bosses, and I'm talking about like on their difficulty for like their bosses usually, like some of their optional bosses are some of the most difficult bosses.
Oh,
in the
sure,
game.
optional stuff. Yeah.
Ultimisia's nasty.
What's that?
She's the nastiest. Ultimisia?
Oh, sure.
I mean, yeah, like a lot of Final Fantasy final bosses have a history of doing moves that wreck you. Like they usually drop you down to like 1 HP, inflict a ton of status ailments on
man,
you.
yeah, it's
you
so
gotta
fun.
manage all that crap. So you basically have to recover from their attack, do some damage, then get ready for it all again. It's an easy pattern once you figure it out.
Yeah.
But that first time you come into it, if you're not like well prepared, it's like, oh my god, everyone's got 1 HP. Oh, I'm confused. I got poisoned. We're dead.
It definitely depends on when you experience it and your prior experience with other games in the series and then other RPGs, because there are definitely moments where if you're not expecting those status ailments to come at a certain point, it'll be a lot tougher than if you've like made
like with Seymour.
preparation.
When I like I figured out when I saw like what he was doing, I was like, okay, I'm just gonna do this. Like obviously Yuna has null element, so he does 4 cast of an element. So 3 of them are going to be, he does 1 on each person, then targets a random person with a 4th one. If it's the 3 circles that match up to like fire, ice, any of the 4 elements, and then does attacks based on that. So if fire comes up, if you have Yuna cast or someone cast Null Blaze, the first 3 hits will do no damage to anybody. The 4th hit will do damage to someone, but basically invalidate his attack.
Cool.
And it gives you can counter with more offensive attacks rather than trying to recover. Also, there in the Jekt fight, one of them does an attack that will stone you, will petrify you.
Yeah.
If you just for that one fight, if you equip at least 2 people with Stone Ward, so that they can't, or Stone Proof, so they can't get stoned, the attack does like nothing. So it was like, it was like basically there's the 2 pagodas and Jekt in the middle. And the pagodas keep charging up his ultimate attack. So if you defeat one of the pagodas temporarily, it'll come back. The other one starts doing a different move set. One of them does like osmos to every character, so you lose all your MP. The other one does a petrify move, which will just like keeps spamming it on you. But if like 2 of my people can't get stoned, I'm like, you're wasting your turns. Like, you know.
Did you get Anima?
No, I didn't do Anima for this playthrough. I've gone Anima. Like I on the PlayStation 2 version of the game, I did everything.
Even dodging late.
I beat all the optional enemies. Yep. I actually made custom weapons for each character that were better than the Celestial weapons, in my opinion. Yeah, they had yes. Like I had like 1 MP, break damage, like basically like not auto haste, but like I'm about to boot up my save file, but like I saw what the Celestial has. I was like, man, 3 of those options of the 4 are good, but I wish that character had a different one for 4th. So I went and grinded. I remember like using Riku's gill toss on stupid enemies in the one cave area to like get like a certain like wings of something that you needed for like break damage and like all this other stuff. I was like,
The times of grinding.
yeah, I think my playfile had like 200 hours at the end. I did the sphere grid one whole time and then used clear spheres to redo most of the sphere grid again for most of the characters. So like
You maximized.
I was
as
trying
much
to
as you
max out all their
possibly could.
stats.
You can
Yeah.
do a second lap on the sphere grid?
If you can farm clear spheres.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
So, upon this revisit, you said that some of the flaws were more noticeable to you, that they were a little bit more obvious. Has that hurt your opinion overall of Final Fantasy X?
No, I think it's more kind of a slap in the face of like one, the game's age, and two, like I'm getting older. It's like, hey, this game is now like 16 years old.
Yeah.
It's coming up on 2 decades since it came out, and when I played, I was like, oh, I was still in school. Oh, I was still technically a teenager when that came out. Wow. Now it's like, whoa, this game is like, it's not. It felt so new, and it felt like only yesterday. I was like, oh, it came out in the 2000s. It's like, wow, we're nearing the 2020s. Like, it was more like becoming more aware of like, things are moving on, and like this game is a product of a. It's not last generation. PS2 is not last generation, but it's like multiple generations back. Like, it's like you got to deal with that. And
It was such a technological feat at the time. I mean, it was a game that you would show your friends and they would marvel at it. You'd be like, oh my god, this game has voice acting.
Yeah.
And so for it to not be in that position anymore is...
like the redone main character, especially their faces, animations, look good. Like it makes me think of how it looked when it came out.
Yeah.
But any of the NPCs that didn't get that TLC,
Sure.
they're like, whoa, what happened there? Is that how? That's how it really looked back then, and like that was groundbreaking. But that does not look good today. That looks very bad.
Damiani, I've got one more question from you. Somebody who has mastered Final Fantasy X. Where do you fall on Blitzball?
I love Blitzball.
Oh.
Okay.
Only in one. In 10.2, I hate 10.2's version of it.
Okay.
I do not like 10.2's Blitzball. There was like I went heavy into that when it came out. Like second playthrough, I was like, okay, I gotta win that first tournament. I know I didn't know it was possible.
Yeah.
I just assumed it was, and then when I won it, they changed the cutscene by you get the trophy. I was like, yeah. And then I was like, no, we're winning all these
So-
Blitzball tournaments and matches.
I have never enjoyed it. I've given it many tries.
Yeah.
Many tries. This is not something I just played a little bit of and then
It's
abandoned.
not it's not the easiest to get into, and
Yeah.
I'll admit, like that part of it's really bad. Once you get over this hump, it doesn't take that much. If you just look up some stuff and beyond the first match, but when you dive into actually playing seasons,
Yeah.
if you just look up some basic stuff, like eventually you get over this hump where your team has these players and these abilities, they're like, you should obliterate everyone, and it just keeps getting easier and easier from
Okay.
there. And it's just like you get to see these characters have these cool special shot stuff. Like you'll be scoring from you'll be like, I'm gonna swim to my goalie, and I'm gonna execute this special shot from over here,
Yeah.
and their goalie won't even be able to stop it. Look at this, how cool! Like you just think back to that first match when you were getting your ass handed to you. You're just like,
Your butt wipes.
Yeah.
I
You can't stop it now, Dom.
can't stop it. It's gonna be there.
Yep.
But you get to look back at that moment and be like, ha ha, game, look what I get to do back to you now.
Sure.
Enjoy it.
All right, you just got to put the time into Blitzball, Ben.
Someday, 2019.
2019, we're all
Blitzball.
2019
Blitzball year.
Blitzball manager.
Like I said at the start of the show, I've been gone since the last episode. I've been doing 2 separate trips, which is kind of like made it so I really have not been able to play as much as I would like. But one thing that I had to make time for, that I'm so glad I did, is Hellblade: Senua's Sacrifice. And this game so far has been just completely fascinating to me. There's like a prologue, and then you kind of go to an area, and I've done like the first big area, the first big boss dude. I've taken him down, and it is a game that is making me realize how much of a joy it is when I can go into something purposefully dark, where I knew very, very little about Hellblade. When Huber was freaking out about it, I just kind of tuned it out because I was like, okay, it's dealing with this interesting mythology and it's dealing with mental illness. That sounds interesting on its own. I'm just going to go in blind. And what I like so much about Hellblade is the way it uses mechanics and visuals to elicit emotions that, like, it's like it almost kind of tricks you into feeling things, I think. And part of the way that it does that is you're playing as this girl named Senwa who has pretty severe mental problems. She's got these voices in her head because of her fragile state of mind. You're wondering a little bit about her reliability as the person you're using to experience this world. And what's interesting is you get the way that they present these different voices. I think it is hard in any fiction, not just video games, to create the character that hears voices. I think it is hard to do that in a way that is convincing. Because I think it is so easy to just sort of fall into the, hey, I'm hearing voices and you can't trust me, or like it's all negative, or they're all kind of saying the same thing. They do these cool little tricks in Hellblade where you'll be like balancing on a beam and you'll hear voices that are being like, she's so terrified, or you can't do this, or you're going to die. And then just quietly kind of couched in between those statements, it'll be like, no, I think you can do this. And so it's like the multifaceted nature of those voices, where they're not just hammering one thing home. You realize that this is a person that has a bunch of different thoughts going on at any one time. And I think kind of what makes it so convincing is how these voices are spaced out, and when they come about, when they get loud, when they get quiet. It lets you know, like, okay, right now there are a lot more bad voices, and so I'm getting a state of mind not just from what they're saying, but how they're saying it. I think that makes it so much more effective. I mean, this is a game where you're getting in a fight and you just have to pay attention to what's going on. You're not seeing a health bar. You're not seeing a bunch of prompts get in your face. And they let you know very early that if you die a certain number of times, that all your progress is going to be wiped away. And what's so cool about Hellblade is so far it hasn't been an especially difficult game. I don't know. I mean, maybe I'm totally wrong. Maybe I'll go home and play it tonight and I'll just get completely destroyed. But I sort of feel like I'm going to be able to get through it without my progress getting wiped. I feel confident that, like, as long as I'm careful, I can do that. But at the same time, that suggestion, knowing that it's there, has had my heart racing. When I do take a hit, when I don't dodge successfully, when I don't parry one of their sword strikes or hammer swings or whatever it is, or shield bashes, I have the fear of having all of that work be undone. And that suggestion, to me, is just as powerful as it actually as it's actually happening. I think these fights would maybe feel a little basic if you didn't have that suggestion there, and it's such an interesting way to mess with the player's mind that I really like as well. Yeah. That
threat sounds a little bit similar to Dragon Quarter.
Breath of Fire Dragon Quarter, yes.
Yeah. The meter that's ever building up, and it fills up, it's like you're done.
Right.
Because our old colleague Patrick Morales used to sing the praises of that game.
What is Dragon Quarter? What is
Breath
that?
of Fire. It's RPG.
I know Breath of Fire.
So there's this like meter, this I forget what the specific name of it is for, but basically it's like a Dragon Rage meter or something that builds up over the course of the game. You cannot I think there's no way.
Which Breath of Fire?
It's called Breath of Fire.
It's for
Dragon
PlayStation
Quarter.
2.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's called. Okay, got it.
Okay, that's what the disconnect was.
Got it.
But yeah, like I think there's no way to ever decrease it. It just keeps building up, I believe.
That's terrifying.
And even if you can decrease it, like Patrick made it sound like it's like no laughing matter. Like it is a constant threat, and it makes you think about every action you take, because certain things will influence how much it builds up over the course of the game.
Cool.
So having that constant state of tension. Not many games do that.
You know what's bad about that is Metroid Prime 3 Corruption, where it's like, if you use this power too much, you might become complete, and you can't. And so...
Oh, yeah, the bluff.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Right. And so, I honestly, I think it's a little important to follow through on it, but yeah.
Yeah, and something that I think Hellblade does a really good job of is making everything make sense in this world and having a physical manifestation of you getting closer to having everything get wiped out. So you sort of have this disease that starts on your arm, and as you fail, as you die, it will creep over your body. And it says when it gets to your head, that's when you will lose all your progress. And that makes sense when you have a game with a character who is mentally unstable. And that carries over into the puzzles as well. So far, a lot of the puzzles have been, hey, you need to basically use these gates that allow you to shift reality, and they'll shift reality in a way where you can create a path forward. And as you're manipulating the environment, you'll have these voices be talking to you and specifically commenting on Senua or on some part of the world or on her relationships as well. And it's just everything ties together so well and so convincingly. And it's sad. Like, Senua is somebody that struggles, and I think that struggle is so convincing because of the physical performance of this character. I mean, when she's writhing in pain, it's not like, oh my god, what they're doing is making me queasy. It is her reaction to it. It is like the way that her face is contorting, the way that she's responding, the way that she's suffering is just incredible. And I cannot wait to get through it. It has been a just fascinating game on so many levels for me.
Outside of the voices that are speaking to the character during certain segments, does the main character ever suffer any temporary moments of physical disability because of their condition that impacts any segment,
right,
you have these abilities, but then all of a sudden you something happens where the illness or something affects you can no longer do this temporarily? Are there any moments like that, or is it strictly just a visual thing that doesn't really impact the...
So I'm only a couple of hours in so far, and so I can't speak to the whole game, but what I've seen kind of so far that is sort of like what you're talking about is you'll have these moments where the darkness will get so bad and she'll kind of crumple to the ground, but it hasn't been really that sort of disability hasn't been featured in any extended gameplay sequence so far.
Okay, I was trying to get out of it, I was thinking of Eternal Darkness, basically,
sure.
The sanity meter. Did it go anywhere near that direction at all, or no?
Yeah, it's a good question. Like I said, the puzzles that you're solving deal with your perception of the environment, but it is not, so far it hasn't been like Eternal Darkness where it's making me scared in that way that it's something is wrong with this game or something. It hasn't been that sort of layer of messing with you the way that Eternal Darkness is. But yeah, I feel very strongly about Hellblade, and Huber said something. He was like, I think that this is a game that I would like as many allies as possible to play to get their perspective on it. And because of what it talks about, I was curious if you guys have any interest in Hellblade.
I downloaded it, but I started Sonic Mania before Hellblade. Yeah, it's just easier.
Sure.
Yeah. It's just easy. It's easier to play Sonic Mania than this scary game about mental illness.
Yeah. It. I don't know if the right word is spooked. I think it's just more of kind of a general uneasiness as I'm going through.
Yeah.
It's not a game that I'm playing and I feel comfortable.
Yeah.
For sure. Which is just something. How about you, Damiani?
Yeah, just because Huber pushed for it, I'll give it a try. I'm also curious because, I'm sorry if I get this wrong. This is Ninja Theory.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'm curious to see them try their hand at a game again that they aren't being forced to try and make Devil May Cry or DMC. I think that was an unfair shake for them. So, but they've done good work before that, and I know they're capable of good work after that. So I want to see what their follow up is to that with this, and hearing good things about it. It's like, all right, when they're not forced to try and like recreate a specific experience that is tailored to unrealistic expectations of a fan base, what are they actually capable of when they're like, here, do your own original thing again? Like that,
Right.
that's what they're better at. I do have a question though. Like the combat in the game.
Sure.
Like, do you feel that it is like ignoring DMC, their previous works?
Yeah.
Is it more like the same of those game style, or is it unique? Is it unique and different in this one, or like how would you compare it or describe it?
It is not like a DMC at all, I would argue. Basically, the way that it happens is you're sort of in this state of combat where your character is moving differently than when you're just running around the world. And you have different options. So you have a light attack, a heavy attack, you have a dodge, you have a block. And if you time the block correctly, you can parry. And so you get into this rhythm, and like I said, you're kind of relying on the physical tells of your opponent more so than any sort of like gameplay specific thing, some HUD element to rely on. And so what will happen is you're also relying on the voices in your head. And so pretty quickly they start throwing not just one person at a time, but multiple people. And I've gotten parries on those people behind me, not because I could see them, but because a voice would say, watch out. And I would time that watch out with a block, get the parry, hit them a little bit. It would say, watch out. I would focus on another person. And so in combat, you're pretty much locked on to one person at a time. You can definitely hit multiple people at a time, but that's not the easiest thing to do. And so the way that I've kind of approached it is like, okay, this person's attacking, I will dodge or block or parry, counterattack. Maybe I'll kill them, maybe I won't. Probably won't. We'll have to move on and shift focus to this other thing.
Is it the kind of game where we find new weapons and upgrade old ones?
I have not found any new weapons so
Okay.
far. I've just been kind of using...
My impression is that it's not that kind of
Yeah,
game.
my impression is that it's not that kind of game as well, but I don't know what surprises
Sure.
are in store. And speaking of things that I don't know about yet, the one concern that I have, and it makes me think of Ian's criticism of Silent Hill Shattered Memories, where in Silent Hill Shattered Memories, he said that his biggest point of frustration was that he could see the lines of the game a little bit too clearly. It's like, here's the scene where you're running away. That's when monsters will appear and chase you.
Mm-hmm.
Everything else,
Don't worry about
you're
it.
not under threat. You're not going to be
Yeah.
attacked. And so far, there's been a pretty clear divide between I am solving puzzles now versus I am fighting dudes. And I'm curious to see if they mess with that at all, or if they kind of jumble up that progression so far.
Sure.
Yeah, that's where I'm at. I really wanted to have it finished by the time that we were talking about this, but
We're doing what we can.
we're
man.
doing what we
Yeah,
can. We're doing what we
definitely.
can.
When can you talk about those two games you saw this week?
I can talk about Total War Warhammer 2, which I feel very positive on
Cool.
right now. But I'm going to be doing a written up preview, and I only got to play an hour of it, and so I don't feel like I'd be able to say anything outside of that written preview, and so I
Sure.
kind of want to save my
Yeah.
opinions on that for that preview. For the second thing, I can't even like mention what I saw until the embargo.
Cool.
And so
Look forward to
that's
those
going to
things,
be
everybody, yeah.
later in this week.
Cool.
I only got to play an hour of Total War Warhammer 2,
Yeah.
which I feel like pretty good about based on the hour that I saw. I got to play a lot of this next thing, and so that's exciting. I love going into an event and they basically say, "Here is our game, go nuts."
Yeah.
And that's kind of the opportunity I got, and so that's really cool. But while I was traveling, I don't want to talk about this too much, but Mega Man Legacy Collection 2 has really got my mind focused on Mega Man.
Mm-hmm.
Like, when I'm not playing Mega Man, I want to be playing Mega Man. And I can't be playing as much Mega Man as I would like to, but it's got me thinking about Mega Man. And while I was traveling, while I was on the plane, I played a little bit of the Mega Man Legacy Collection.
First one.
Yes, the first one. So that has Mega Man 1 through 6, the NES games, on the 3DS. It's on other platforms as well, but I was playing it on the 3DS. And it's interesting, my perceptions of some of those games versus like how I felt about him when I played them again. I don't think Mega Man 1 is as bad as I was initially giving it credit for. That game has a lot of good ideas that you see in every subsequent Mega Man game, and it wasn't quite as difficult for me as I initially remember it being.
Nice.
Like, I just went through Cutman stage and was like, oh, that was like a pretty smooth, like totally solidly designed level. I think it's just the blocks that drive me insane, those disappearing blocks.
Yeah.
But the most interesting thing to me was Mega Man 4, which is the introduction of the Charge Beam. And what I love about this collection is not only are you getting a slow evolution of a series over 6 games, but that series is using the same hardware. And I think that is so important to it, because you're seeing these ideas happen and then the sequel responding to how those ideas went over. And that very much happens in Mega Man 4 and 5, where you have the introduction of this Charge Beam, and it's like so obvious that they didn't know how to use it quite yet, where they're like, okay, we want to give Mega Man this more powerful natural attack where he doesn't need Robot Master's weapons to use it. Because we're giving him this big blast, we're going to give the enemies like a lot more life. And because it's a big, like, you can just kind of like see them like thinking through these things,
Yeah.
which is really cool. And it's like, we want you to charge it up. We want the sound to happen. We want the visual to happen. And it goes like way too slow. And so
That's funny.
this rhythm that they really excelled with, like in Mega Man 3, where you see the introduction of the slide and
Yeah.
how that kind of creates for a better moving game, it just grinds to a halt in Mega Man 4, where a lot of times it's like things are taking way too long to kill, and it's taking way too long to use that charge shot. And then you go and you play Mega Man 5, where it's like, all right, it's easier to kill things, and therefore the flow of the game has dramatically improved. And just like the introduction of idea versus now we actually know how to use it, now that we've experimented with it, is really, really cool. And it just made me think about how I would love, like, there are other series that I really care about that I would love to see that sort of collection where you could play back to back, like hop in and out of these games, compare and contrast them, and really have an immediate understanding of how they're different or like points of change. Like I would love even just like a Contra collection. Like that is a series where they definitely had like interesting, like sharp changes from Contra to Super C to Contra 3, the Alien Wars, and like, yes, 2 of those were on NES and 1 of those was on SNES, so there's a natural difference there, but just seeing that evolution, I think, would be really cool. But what is your experience with classic Mega Man, and how do you feel about those games?
5 is the one I owned. 5 is the only
Okay.
Mega Man game I had as a child.
So that was the first Mega Man game you played? Mm-hmm. Okay, have you gone back and played previous Mega Man games that didn't have some of those things?
Yeah, I think I borrowed the collection from a buddy at one point.
Yeah.
And 1 was like intolerable. I really
Sure.
couldn't handle 1. But yeah, I played through some more. I think what you just described is kind of unique to Mega Man. I'm not
Yeah.
sure how many collections would translate directly to be this interesting to see a natural evolution, as you said, over one platform.
Sure.
But yeah, it's interesting how they're still fun.
Mm-hmm.
And you're right. I called 1 trash, but it's interesting how much that got right,
Mm-hmm.
and how much it established, and how much it is still working today. Is actually really, really cool to look back at those kind of things.
Yeah, there in the boss fights as well. Like I can't imagine developing new boss fights for a Mega Man game, because it's so hard to find that perfect balance between making this boss feel significant and distinct, like giving it a gimmick so it feels meaningful that you're fighting it, but not over designing it to the point where it's no fun.
Yeah.
And is too much of a gimmick that it feels like such a significant hurdle to overcome that it's like, okay, well, I had to just keep dying. Now I have to replay the state, like all of that. And it's interesting where they succeed and where they fail, because you definitely have a lot of bosses where it's just like, nope, this thing is just hopping around and shooting bullets basically in a way that so many Mega Man bosses have. But you have something like Gravity Man in Mega Man 5, and that's such an interesting fight, because what's happening is you start the fight upside down, sticking to the ceiling, and then he will shift to the floor and to the ceiling, and you'll kind of go with him.
The only time you can do damage is when you're trading directions.
Right, and so you have to like time it right so you're hitting him while he and you are basically switching positions.
Yeah.
And he doesn't... there's like two things he can do. He can shift gravity and he can shoot like these bullets at you.
Mm-hmm.
And that's it, but that's enough and feels different enough from every other boss fight in the game that it's really cool. And I think, to me, kind of like finds that balance for Mega Man. So...
I have played through the entirety of 1, 2, and 3, 9, and 10.
Nice.
I have, at some point, tried 4, 5. I don't think I don't want to... Not sure if I've touched 8 or not. I mean, I've seen it, but I don't know if I actually had hands-on with it, and I'm blanking out on 6 and 7 as well. So I think 6, 7, 8... once the X series came into the picture, I stopped caring about OG Mega Man.
Of course.
Actually.
How could you?
And then when they all went away, I was like, oh, here's 9 and 10. Of course I care about this again. This is great. More Mega Man. But yeah, 1, 2, 3, 9, and 10 are like the ones I've played the most and my favorites of the series.
So you
Mega Man
said
X
one-
collection has to be coming, right?
It has to be. It has to be coming. It'd be silly.
Isn't there the Maverick Hunter collection already?
Yes.
Wait,
but we're talking
but
about...
no, there is an X collection.
Yeah.
Mission. Not Mission. Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
Maverick Hunter is the PSP version of Mega Man X.
Yeah, there is a collection.
forgot
that came
about
out.
that.
There's a
Yeah.
collection.
Yeah, Maverick Hunter.
There was Mega Man Powered Up and Mega Man Maverick Hunter.
Hunter, yeah, on
and they were
PSP.
both like, we're relaunching both
remember?
franchises, and neither of them worked out.
Arcade Mega Mans. The Mega Man, the
fighting
power,
game?
Yeah.
So
The
one,
fighting game's on one of those
the one
collections.
One
you
of
fight
the-
like Yellow Demon or whatever. Oh.
the Mega Man collection
Yeah.
on different platforms had different like extra bonuses.
Oh.
I think. Oh, it's
Power
it's
button.
either the GameCube version or the PS2 version that has the fighting game, and then one of those versions has the like a kart racing game.
Whoa.
I believe.
And I think
And
there's-
my
I think
memory
it-
is very fuzzy on this, but I think that's correct.
I think there's a soccer game as well.
Yes, there is a
Yeah.
soccer game.
Yeah.
That's the Mega Man Soccer on Super Nintendo. Was that in the?
I think it's in one of those collections, man.
Okay.
Isn't this crazy?
Because it also came out on Xbox, the original Xbox.
Whoa.
But then there's an X collection that only came out on PS2, I believe, that has Mega Man X1 through X6, I think.
Yeah.
And I have that, and we should play it because X is it's really good. But what I actually like it. All Mega Mans existing in different ways, and I love that in 9 and 10, it was like that's stripped down. And I think you need to kind of alternate between Mega Man so you don't get in a rhythm, so it forces you to play a little bit differently. I think that's something that the Zero series did a good job of. I think that's something that the X series did a good job of. I think it's something that 9 and 10 did a good job of. Just sort of like strategically adding and removing things to kind of shake you out of your comfort zone, I think is a good idea.
I also think. I mean, we talked about some Mania earlier,
Yeah.
and how it proved that it could do old but new.
Right.
Whereas Mega Man 9 and 10 were all new levels, all new bosses.
Yeah.
Like I really like I think it did a really good job with the music. But it did have like not just new levels, new bosses, but like had like the shop system where you can go in and like buy some items to help you out with the nuts and bolts things that your screws that you could collect as your currency. And
That's
then-
actually in other Mega Man games too.
yeah, and then they added like the extra features, like it's on a modern system. Let's put challenges in there, so it like had a built-in achievement system on top of like the Xbox trophies and actual achievement support. So even like if you played on the Wii version, it's like a little thing come up, you beat this level without taking a hit, or you beat this level with like minimum amount of jumps or whatever. I was like, oh, this is cool. Then like online leaderboards, like the endless mode, like. Then they added the DLC, which is like, oh wait, what DLC in a old Mega Man game? Wait, what? Or old style Mega Man game? Like, here's Proto Man, like new character, like had different feature
And it
sets.
seemed like such a treat too that they're like,
Yeah.
we're giving you Proto Man.
Right.
I didn't like that was like paid
Yeah.
DLC. Like
Yeah.
that part rubbed me the wrong way. But it's water under the bridge at this point. It's out. It's in the collection though, so you get that stuff. So if you're buying it with the collection,
You get all the characters.
you
Cool.
should.
Cool.
Right.
Yeah.
What's
don't-
that? Oh yeah, when you
should-
buy it, yes, you get all the DLC
yeah,
for
you
9
should get
and
all the
10
DLC, yeah.
in Legacy Collection
I
too.
hope
Yeah, yeah.
so, or else
Cool,
people like there should have been headlines about that. Yeah, you get all that stuff now, and that's a neat thing to have, like playing as those different characters in there.
Water under the bridge. Well, no. Because here's what we talked about is in Mega Man 10 that Mega Man can't slide and do his charge attack, and that was just to add novelty to the DLC characters.
You can't do slide in 9 either.
Because Proto Man has it.
Yeah, but there are certain special powers that do have a charge up for Mega Man. Like I believe the fire one you can charge up and it shoots like a 3-way beam or something.
But to me, Damiani, that's
but you don't have the like traditional charge.
It's removing aspects of this character and movement options just to make the other DLC characters have a thing. That's so absurd to me.
Yeah, it is. It's also I also think that's part of they wanted to keep the game challenging, and if I think you had all those abilities,
slide and charge,
it rolled into one, it would have made those levels a little bit easier enough that I don't know, like people seem to think 9 and 10 are pretty difficult or on the more difficult end. So I applaud them putting out that like level of difficulty for like a new entry after it had been so many years since a classic Mega Man game had come out. Mm-hmm. It's like, hey, here's a new Mega Man, and you also remember how hard they were. Here you go. They're still hard.
Yeah,
get frustrated. But I think people like that. Like, yeah, I remember like Mega Man 2 blocks. I can't get over this. Or Mega Man 1. Every single thing in Mega Man 1 was hard.
It's like, I think honestly, when they were doing 9 and 10, they wanted to go back to 2 and 3 more than they were 4, 5, 6. You know, I think they were trying to respect those games more than the others. So I get your point there.
But X just feels like the most fertile ground for like going back to that time.
Oh, yeah.
Now that we've had 9 and 10.
Let's do it.
Now that we've had these collections.
They're so different. I mean, I'll give this real quick. I'll give this like this was Mega Man 9. I felt like almost all of the Robot Masters are a little bit more. It feels a little bit more fair fighting them with just the default weapon, the Buster Cannon.
Yeah.
Versus using their weakness move. I feel like in older ones it was really hard to just beat them with the traditional Buster. Like, it was like, not a chance, and this isn't happening.
And I never had any idea what to use. That was the frustrating thing. I would just use the one I had and deplete it all the way and then start, blasting away at the Buster.
It's part of the experimentation.
Yeah, it's cool.
You gotta get your passwords, write them down, so like, I'm gonna go back to that and start it.
Red dot, blue
but yeah,
dot,
like,
my grid.
I know people want a new Mega Man really badly, and we all don't know what's going on, why there isn't one. Like, I'm hoping after Sonic Mania and Sega willingness to work with the developers that they did to make it happen, maybe that paves the way for other companies to be like, hey, Capcom, maybe you could work with someone to make a Mega Man game happen.
Well, here's the craziest thing about this. This is fun, Ben. This is like a weird headline about Legacy Collection 2. There's a piece of concept art that has never appeared in any Mega Man game.
I did not know this.
And it's modern. It's a recent concept art.
It's not like he's like in a green outfit with his like hand up. I think it's from Mega Man 8, right? The art. But
no, it's not from any Mega Man
it's
game.
in the 8 section.
Oh,
but
right.
Everyone's like, that's not anything in Mega Man 8. So what the heck is this? Mm-hmm. So, I mean, in all likelihood, it was probably just like,
I think it's a canceled game.
It's a canceled game, or some artist was just like drawing around and like it got stuck in the official file.
But anyway, it demonstrates Mega Man absorbing a power, not just his colors changing, but his helmet and his Buster as well. Like his actual appearance changes.
Now is the time.
Now's the time. Well, here's the thing. I think we know for sure that there's a game in development to tie into the TV show. Mm-hmm. So I think like that's really the practical thing to assume.
Remember when there was a point there were like 4 upcoming Mega Man games and like none of them happened? Remember like was it Mega Man Universe or World or whatever that was supposed to be like the Mario Maker of Mega Man or something?
Yeah.
Mega Man Legends 3.
Yeah.
Remember all that?
I remember that well. Yeah.
That looks like a good video game. So
wait, Universe looked bad though, to be honest with you.
Oh, Universe, but Legends 3 looks great.
I think Mega Man Universe, I never got it. The style was so weird,
I did some sleuthing because it was bothering me so much about the Mega Man Anniversary Collection, which came out on PS2,
definitively. Here we go.
And Xbox. So the games included for all versions are Mega Man 1 through 8, and also Mega Man the Power Battle. You have to defeat Needleman and Mega Man 3 to unlock this.
Cool.
And then Mega Man 2, the Power Fighters, you defeat Junkman and Mega Man 7 to unlock. Those
are really fun unlocks, by the way.
Yeah, so there are like different extras depending on the version. So the first episode of the Mega Man animated series In the PlayStation 2 version only, you defeat Astro Man and Mega Man 8.
Cool. Wow, that's cool.
And then you get the first episode of Mega Man NT Warrior, defeat Astro Man and Mega Man 8 for the Xbox version.
Whoa.
But what I was thinking of is Mega Man Battle and Chase, which is the racing game, but that is in the Mega Man X collection, not the Mega Man Anniversary collection.
So is it 3D models or is it like 2D Super Nintendo style racing game?
I believe it is 3D models. It's like a PS1.
I would love to play that game.
Yeah.
Mega Man Battle and Chase. I'll just buy it, man.
Vote for the vote. Group stream it.
All right. We're going to, real quick, Google image search Mega Man, because I've seen screenshots of this game before. Yeah. All right, so this makes for bad podcasting, but I'm going to show Kyle a screenshot of this, and I think you're going to want to play it. What do you see?
Oh yeah. Wow, the style of this game. It's like oh my goodness. It is 3D. The backgrounds are two-dimensional, like sprite based. I get Legends vibe off the way that these polygons are shaded, dude. And I mean textured too.
We need to experience it together as a collective.
In Mega Man Battle and Chase. Okay, all right. I won't be selfish. We'll play this together.
There are other differences in the extras that I didn't read, but just wanted to clear it up. It was driving me insane.
Yeah,
I'm glad we did.
Oh,
we now have excitement for Mega Man Battle and Chase. The last thing that I want to talk about very, very quickly is a show that I've been watching that I didn't like at first and then grew to like a lot, and that's a show called The Leftovers. This is a show that Huber's a big fan of and has seen all 3 seasons. I've finished the first season, and I'm on episode 3 of season 2. And very quickly, The Leftovers is a show where this supernatural event happens. 2% of the world's population just vanishes. They're just gone. And there's no explanation for it. There is no why, at least where I'm at so far. It is just something that happened, and now we're going to deal with the aftermath of it. And the way that they deal with the aftermath is they focus on this town. They focus on the town of Mapleton in New York. And they focus on a specific set of characters. And so they focus on characters who have had people taken from them or had somebody in their life was affected by the chaos that happened that day that these people mysteriously vanished. And then they focus on a family where they don't, it first doesn't appear like anything happened to them on that day. And what is interesting and frustrating at first, at least to me, is the way that they tell this story is they set up the event really well. You see the event happening. You see the suddenness of it. You see the chaos that it causes. You have context for this mass disappearance. And then from there, crazy things start happening. They sort of just throw us into this after state of, all right, now people have had to deal with it. Here are different factions that have come up at this point. Like there's this organization called the Guilty Remnant where they just wear white and they smoke. They chain smoke all the time and they can't speak. And it has something to do with this event. And so basically some of the storylines that you're thrown into, some of the characters, some of the forces that you're dealing with are sort of just kind of in your face and purposefully don't make sense at first and may not make sense for some time. But what's cool about it is if you're patient, the way that it sort of fills in these blanks is very, very, very satisfying. And characters that initially seem atypical, as you learn about their past and like the way that it shows you a lot of things aren't presented when you expect them to be presented. Things that you would expect, the sort of like big flashback scene that you expect to happen early on doesn't happen until like the second to last episode. And it is intentionally jarring and sometimes very frustrating and sometimes even very slow, but when taken as a whole is really, really well developed and super interesting. And just some of the performances, particularly, I forget her name, but particularly the woman who does Nora is just phenomenal. And it handles it the way that I would want a show to handle an event like this, rather than focus on the mystery of the event itself, like trying to explain and give you like little clues for the mass disappearing. That's not what the show is really concerned about. The show is concerned about, hey, this event happened. How are people dealing with it? And that is way more interesting. Seeing just the sort of responses that people have, some of them extreme and some of them very subtle, and it makes you think, like, this is extremely relatable. Like, yeah, it's kind of crazy that 2% of the world's population disappeared, but you could apply these reactions, these responses, these defense mechanisms to any event. And that's what makes it so good.
Does the supernatural stuff stop at that 2%?
No.
Oh, okay.
But I would argue that because of the mental state of the characters, you wonder if some of the other supernatural stuff is genuine or if it is just simply believed.
Sure.
And I think they do a good enough job of building up to those points that you can kind of buy into it either way. So, yeah. Apparently, season 3 is the absolute best, but the first episode of season 2, I think it's like something like 20 minutes. It focuses on this like prehistoric woman who there's no dialogue whatsoever, and she's like in this cave with other women, and she goes out to pee, and the cave like collapses, and so she's like isolated from all of the people that she was with. And then the storm comes and she has a baby. And then for like 20 minutes of the show, not connected to any character that you've seen so far, you see her trying to survive with this child. And at first you're just like trying to wrap your head around like why this is happening, why we're focusing on this person. But then you take the context of the way that it's been talking about family and the families that it's shown you, and you're like, I can kind of, based on how this situation resolves with this mother and child, I can kind of pull something out of this. And I love that. I love when shows throw you for a loop, but then you can think back to yourself, no, this makes a lot of sense and is using this form of storytelling to enrich what was already there. I think Breaking Bad is another show that does that a lot, where you will have these dramatic shifts in terms of whose viewpoint you're following or the tone of the episode, but it adds a lot to the characters and the overall world as a result. I think Better Call Saul also does a good job of that as well. And so, yeah, a show that initially frustrating, but I've gotten a lot out of over time. So
Nice.
Yeah. Cool.
It's a show that I probably wouldn't have watched if Huber wasn't so passionate about it. And so my question for you guys is, with games, I feel like because it's my job to play video games, I am a little bit more free about it, where it's like, oh, this just came out. If I have time, I'll give it a chance.
Yeah.
So I try a lot of things. But shows, a lot of times, are just big commitments that I have to make time for.
Yeah.
Where, like, yeah,
especially
maybe
hour-long dramas, man.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Especially hour-long dramas that have multiple seasons,
Yeah.
right? There's 28 episodes across all 3 seasons. That's 28 hours of time. That's a lot of time. And with any show, it can be a huge commitment. How do you decide what you watch? Is it based on recommendations? Is it based on reviews? Is it based on interest in the premise?
It's that last one, Ben. I think you're surrendering a lot of yourself to a weekly show that is an hour long. That's like you are giving part of yourself to that show, and so the show's got to give back.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of how it is. But in other ways, I will watch news and I'll watch Sports Center, and so there's other things that are like casual, easy to watch, and absolutely I'll just put those on. You know what I mean? That's cool. That's fine.
For me, it's a little bit of both of premise and recommendation. Also, if a show, the pedigree behind the creators, if they've created something or worked on something that I really enjoyed, I'll give them like a chance. Premise though has a lot to do because I tend to gravitate towards certain genres. Like if something like sci-fi and it's about like space exploration or like survival of like human race survival is at hand. So there is a CBS produced show that's on Amazon Prime right now called, I believe, Survival. It's about like it's basically Armageddon, where an asteroid or a comet or something is going to hit Earth, but they know about it, and they have like 6 months or something to do something about it. And I was like, okay, this might be cool. Like,
So you're watching that right now?
well, I didn't realize it wasn't all done. So that kind of, when I found out there were only 4 episodes out at the time, I was like, oh crap, this is an ongoing show. So I hate ongoing shows now, with very few exceptions. Like Game of Thrones, like stuff I've been invested in for a few years
I
already.
hate ongoing shows.
I'm
it's
sorry,
hard to
Netflix has spoiled me.
Yeah.
I see what you're saying.
no,
Netflix
that's
has
real.
spoiled
That's
me
very,
with
very real,
that,
absolutely.
and I now that I know the other side of the fence, I'm like, oh my gosh, I just rather have this. I get the appeal. Like Huber and I have this discussion a lot about like the appeal. I totally see the appeal of the weekly thing. It's
I think
it's
I'm
an
on your
event.
side.
It's
Yeah.
an event, but like as like I only want fewer. I want fewer things to be the weekly event thing, and we got to come back next season, or you got to wait like next week for it. I want more things to be the binge watch. I get the arguments and pros and cons for both, but for the show, at 4 episodes in, it's basically a new paint job for the show 24. It's very much stylized like 24, and which there's like just, oh my god, conspiracies, things are going wrong, like people going behind each other's back. It's
In
like
the asteroid show?
yeah, it's like there's like
Just work together and kill the
so
asteroid.
the government's trying to do something about it, but
Yeah.
then like they're getting sabotaged by some secret like shady group that they won't reveal who it is. And then there's like this billionaire genius guy who's also trying to help, but also has his own ulterior motives. And it's just like, what's good?
All right, this is a good show.
Yeah,
This is cool. I like this.
Like after 4 episodes, I'm like,
You're out?
I was like,
You have to evaluate that commitment.
I'll watch. Yeah, like I give a show like 4 or 5 episodes, and if like I'm not completely hooked, it's like I feel like it's time to get out. Like,
Okay.
you get 4 or
fair.
5 episodes to get me.
Yeah, it's weird because I think by episode 3 of The Leftovers, I liked it, but it wasn't until episode 10 of season 1 where it was like, no, I have to finish this. Like, I have to watch all 3 seasons.
You at least like liked it by then.
Yeah,
Like,
I did. There was interest.
Like
for
I had
sure.
to ask myself a hard question: am I just watching this because like I'll watch anything that's to do with like the Extinction Averse at hand? It's just guilty pleasure, or
Yeah.
are you actually really enjoying this? And I was like, no. And I was like, what else? Like what else is being shown right now that's new? And I was like, there's this I could keep watching every week, or on Netflix right now is Little Witch Academia, and I was like, no, I'm gonna watch Little
Yeah.
Witch Academia instead.
That's a Ben recommendation.
Yeah, we've been slowly working through the season.
So
and
I finished
just
all.
feel good, man.
I finished all that because I watched the original thing they did, the
Yeah.
original 25-minute video they did. I never saw the 50s kickstarted movie. I never saw that.
I haven't either.
But I saw the original thing where they go into the cave with the dragon and the Philosopher's Stone and stuff, or Sorcerer's Stone. Did that, and I liked that. And then that was like 4 years ago, and it's like, oh, they're gonna make a whole series over that. I was like, oh, this is gonna be enjoyable. I like magic, like wizards and stuff. Like I like watching stuff about that. It's pretty good.
It's good stuff.
You know, there's no point in saying it because so much of the world feels this way, but like I have an irrational love for Game of Thrones. Even when I hate it, I love it. And the last 6 weeks, I'm not joking, like the happiest I was smiling. I was watching the last episode of Game of Thrones with my girlfriend, and there were some big payoff moments that happened in the episode, and I was just beaming. She's like, "You haven't been this happy in forever." And then the episode ended, and I just was mad. I was like, I can't believe. And every week it's the same thing where I'm so happy that it's in the moment, and then it ends, and it's just a week feels like forever away. And it's totally what you're saying. Like, I don't think I would be watching The Leftovers if I couldn't just watch all of it right now. We are absolutely spoiled. But we're spoiled in a way that disgusts me, where there are a lot of times, not a lot of times, occasionally I will go on like Netflix or Amazon or Hulu, whatever it is, and do you ever just like browse for like 5-10 minutes and then you just end up closing it?
Yeah.
And it's just like, you just ended up wasting
Yep.
that period of time and did nothing.
This is like, you're like, I'm gonna find something. You're like, and it's worse because I'll go through like Amazon, HBO Now, and Netflix. It's
Yeah.
like,
Still find nothing.
like I could have
Wow.
watched an
Yeah.
episode of something in the time. I just,
Like,
gone through
it's the most disgusting thing because like you'll have a couple and you're like, maybe it'll be good, but not right now, and then you just close it. That's
Speaking of, real quick,
terrible.
not experiencing new stuff and redoing old stuff.
Yeah.
I just started rewatching Death Note in preparation for the Netflix.
Dude,
Why?
yes.
Yes, but why cause yourself more intense pain?
Well, I'm going into the Netflix release, expecting it to be completely different. I want it to be different.
Yeah.
I already watched the live action movies, the Japanese movies. I'm like, okay, they've already done a different interpretation of the manga and anime. So, and I liked it despite some of its flaws. So I've seen enough adaptations. I've been like the traditional story. I want to see some new spins on it. I want to see them try and do something different. I get a lot of the criticisms being leveraged about the casting, but I'm going to put that aside and just focus on the story
I like
and see
it.
how good of a job they do with that. Plus William Dafoe as Ryuk.
Yeah.
It's like, come on. I'm in it for just that at least.
I think that's so far the reason why.
Yeah.
Is
It's good casting.
I forgot how fast it starts, though. I didn't realize, he goes, I've had it for 5 days. I've killed all these... I was like, whoa, I thought it was like a few episodes in. Like, nope. It's like that. I was like,
I think
wow,
that's cool.
I really
Yeah,
forgot about that. Anyway. Yeah.
Anyway, it's time. We're fine. This might be the longest What Have You Been Playing that we've ever done on Frame Trap.
Whoa. Record breakers.
We went long, but it is time for the one, the only Hotake! This week, we have something that I think we would normally discuss on the Easy Allies podcast, but just based on when that show comes out, when it records, the news happened after that, and so we're taking it, we're putting it on Frame Trap, we're chewing on it. It is the, with no month given, 2018 delay of Crackdown 3. And I want to kind of provide the full context for this. The first question is, on its own, does this off-delayed game, does this delay matter for Crackdown 3 on its own? But also, what does this mean for the Xbox One X, which is now launching the exclusives for the Xbox One X, or the Xbox Windows exclusives for the Xbox One X, that's what I'm trying to say, are Forza 7, Cuphead, and Super Lucky's Tale, and then the console exclusive launch of PlayerUnknown's Battleground. There will obviously be other games coming out, like Assassin's Creed Origins, that will take advantage of the Xbox One X, and stuff like that. What does this mean for that system? Is this make you more excited, less excited? Does this impact the performance that we see in early November for the Xbox One X? And what's going on with Microsoft? We're seeing all of these studios close down. We're seeing all of these high-profile games just get shuttered. What is going on, and how do they recover?
So, to kick this one off, I think it's really important to know the history of delays for Crackdown 3.
Yes.
Because of the way it was announced and then delayed, and then the release was going to be just multiplayer. And so it was going to be, I think it was like a summer or spring of 2015, just multiplayer.
Okay.
Then, no, maybe that was 2016. Anyway, this release was going to be just single player, this most recent one. All we have done is the single player. The multiplayer, which has the destructive environments, will come later. The reason stated for the delay was the three components of multiplayer was single player, co-op, and then the destructive mode where you can destroy anything in the city. All those things we need to be working together, and that's why we delayed it again. That's crazy. It is like all games get delayed. Many games get delayed many times. Just the thing that makes Crackdown unique is the way that features were going to be stripped in its release and the reason for delays stated. But yeah, I think it was announced in 2014, and it doesn't have the power it did in 2014 now, is what it means. It still has power. It'll still be the game it is when it finally comes out. But when I talk about games having more power as announcements than as actual games, Crackdown 3 is losing that power. A lot of times, we have to be honest that console manufacturers, console producers, Microsoft, Sony, and Nintendo will announce games, allow games to be announced to make their platforms look stronger. Crackdown 3 is absolutely one of those. Phantom Dust was one of those. But again, all consoles do it. But yeah, it's losing that power as one of those announcement type games for sure.
It's the whiplash like you described is what's crazy to me, where I don't understand, and it's not even so much anger or criticism as it is just general confusion of how you can shift the focus and then reach a point where you're like, actually no, we need all of these. Like how has it been drug out so long that you didn't know? Is it just because like the focus of the game shifted, and why did it shift? Who made it shift? Like, it's just a general question of what is happening.
Yeah, and
how did we get here?
There's a lot of teams working on it. I think there's like 4 studios involved with this game. When it was announced, we didn't know one, and that's another thing. Is like we're learning more and more. I think Sumo Digital is working on this game. Even it's just crazy. Like the teams. Something is going wrong, and I mean that happens. I
Sure.
think that the excuse falls flat of multiplayer had to be good because you didn't want to launch with multiplayer. So it's a flat excuse. The good thing is they're making the game better, and the good thing is when it does launch, all those things will finally work together with some sort of cohesiveness. Though the buildings will only blow up in that one specific multiplayer mode. It's just weird, Ben. I don't think it's going to hurt the launch of the Xbox One X too much. To be frank, I think the Xbox One X will hit a PlayStation 4 Pro like audience. Less than that. I think it will sell less than the PlayStation 4 Pro did. I think it'll sell around that area, though. I think it'll sell to that percentage of buyers. And so I don't think that this is a deal breaker or deal maker for for any of that group. I don't think it's that kind of game.
Do you think that this being a cancellation in sort of a series of high-profile cancellations and studio closures, do you think when lumped in collectively will hurt the Xbox One X outside of just this initial announcement on its own?
Because it looks bad, is what you mean. Yeah, it does. It looks like they're lacking enthusiasm. It looks like they don't care to put out unique games. It's just the visuals are bad. Super Lucky's Tale is sweet though. Like, what if that game just gets huge commercials? What if that game is well promoted? What if Cuphead it gets huge promotion? Though Cuphead scares me in a way that it might be bearing more weight than it should as a big Xbox exclusive. You know what I mean? This happens to a lot of Sony games too, where it's just like, you know what, that game isn't that type of game. It shouldn't have to deal with that weight. It's just a game. Just let it be a game. I kind of feel that way with that way, and I kind of feel that way with Crackdown 3. You know, Crackdown has never been that huge AAA. Everybody's talking about it. We talk about it when we're doing Game of the Year nominations at the end of the year. It's not that kind of game. It's just a fun game. And then Crackdown 2 kind of stinks. And so Crackdown 3 is like, yeah, that could be super fun, but it's not this huge legacy. It's not this huge. It shouldn't have as much riding on it as it does. And I feel bad about that.
Yeah, I mean, you think about how Crackdown got big in the first place is because it came with that Halo 3 beta.
Yeah,
right.
Absolutely.
People got to discover it without sort of they were already getting the beta, and then it turns out this game is also actually awesome and deserving of attention.
Do we think there will even be a Halo next year? Will next year be a Halo year?
Does next year have to be a Halo year?
It should. Yes. It should be.
I mean, you're illustrating the point that one of Microsoft's biggest problems right now is they need exclusives. And when these games, like you said, like Cuphead and Super Lucky's Tale, needing to kind of carry the mantle for that because these other games are dropping out and being delayed, like they only have, so many horses in their stable right now. Like they don't have a lot in there to go head to head with like Sony or Nintendo in terms of the exclusives department. And it's been thinning out year after year. And I think this speaks. You asked a little bit, Ben. I want Kyle to say his piece first.
Sure, yeah.
He spoke to what's going on with Microsoft.
Yeah.
I think, more specifically with Xbox, I think behind the scenes, I would not be surprised if there's a lot of turmoil going on in terms of Xbox. I think the problem is not just exclusives. I think possibly Microsoft is starting to lose faith in Xbox as like a home console. I think this is gonna be bold prediction time.
Okay, I like these.
These are bold predictions.
It's Hotake, man.
It would not shock me if Xbox One X is the last console bearing the Xbox name.
I'd be shocked.
I would not be surprised if Microsoft converts Xbox to a service, a game service that's available on Windows devices. Windows devices. So portable PC, anywhere you can have Windows on it, you can play it. Xbox will be their gaming service where you can get their games and stuff. And I thought about this a lot because I was like, okay, they don't have to worry about a console anymore. Like, they already have the PC market. Anything with Windows operating systems would have access to this. Anything on mobile that has Windows operating systems would have access to this. The problem is the game's delivery. Like, yeah, you have Xbox Live and stuff, but like PC already has Steam. So it's like that's cutting into a lot of like
Microsoft hates Steam. They don't like
yes,
that.
I know they don't like that. That's the problem. Like Xbox, their service for buying their games on there, if it was only on PC and phones, people would rather probably buy a version of a game from Steam than from Microsoft, like Xbox's service or whatever. Like if it's not exclusive.
Here's what how I would object to Damiani is that the Xbox One hasn't been a smashing leader of the market, but it has sold very, very well so far. They're selling a ton of consoles, and for them to just cut that off immediately here when Xbox One is selling is so weird to me.
But I mean, I apologize for not having looked at the financial stuff behind it. I'm curious about how much that division's actually making them overall. They might be selling
it's
a lot,
all secret.
But yeah,
that's the thing.
That's the
Damiani,
thing.
is
like,
you don't know.
I thought the inklings were like I thought shareholders were putting pressure for the last few years to ditch it because they must, and they would only be saying that if it wasn't turning them a lot of money or they saw it as like a liability that they want to get rid of. Like there was that rumor like 2 or 3 years ago that some of their lead shareholders were trying to pressure Microsoft to like kill Xbox around, like stop. Like before Xbox One first came out, there was that story, or those stories came out that said like they didn't even want that to happen. Like the shareholders, they're like, no, we don't want that. Like this is not what you need to be focusing on.
But like even if it is profiting, and I do believe it is, hopefully, it's not. It's like so insignificant compared to what Microsoft as a corporation is making, and it's just the tiniest little bit of their business, really. And it like that, I think. What Damiani is saying is that speaks to how we feel about Microsoft as the leader of a console, And when you say like, oh, this game got delayed, it's going to come out sometime in 2018. Yeah. It feels like Microsoft the corporation, and it does. You don't feel the love there very frequently, and so it is the right thing to do, most likely. Every time we'd have delays, we say that was the right thing to do. Would you just think of like Mass Effect? That should have been delayed. But yeah, it does feel bad. It feels bad when you look at this year. But I mean, it shouldn't. When you look at Sony and what they have this year, off the top of my head, let's do this: a Gran Turismo Sport.
Mm-hmm. What are you doing for this year?
Yeah, this fall.
Oh, for fall.
The fall of this year, yeah.
That's
it. That's all I can think of. It's like the huge games.
But there's stuff already came out this year.
Oh yeah, I mean Sony's had a very good 2017.
I mean you have Uncharted Lost Legacy coming out tomorrow.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, you're right, and that's a huge thing.
Right, and like let's say an upcoming Sony game I think does get delayed into oblivion. I don't think it reads the same as it does here because you don't have that same emptiness, that same history that you do on Microsoft's side for this console generation.
Sure.
I mean, what is the outside of so before Forza 7, what is the AAA Microsoft exclusive that comes into your head?
This year?
This year.
So Ben, I think PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds is gonna be a big deal.
Yes, but I'm saying right now, like, what is the last released in 2017 from this point all the way back to January? What is the name a Microsoft exclusive?
Oh, I see.
Exclusive.
I see.
Halo Wars 2.
That came out in February, right?
Came out in February.
Okay, that counts. That's it, though, isn't it?
That's all I can think of.
Yeah.
More and more of these things are coming out on PC anyway.
All of them are.
Yeah.
All of them are.
Well, not every single one, but almost all of them are. Historically.
Every single Microsoft Studios published game will also be coming out on PC.
I guess that also... I think Dead Rising 4 falls under that. Wait, was Dead Rising 4... No, Dead Rising 4 was last year, wasn't it?
Yeah, man.
Oh my god. Dead Rising 4 was this year. Okay.
How much would Microsoft have to pay to buy Valve outright?
Damiani, what a question, dude.
How much money?
No, there's no number you could hand to Gabe Newell where he would say, "Yeah, I'll take it."
So $5 billion isn't enough.
Actually, I think $5 billion would not be
here's
enough.
what I'm getting at.
If we're actually like, what is the value of Valve? I think it's more than $5 billion.
If Valve, I mean, I don't think they did, but Valve was looking to cash out. Like, oh man, we're gonna get our payday. We're all gonna be rich.
Yeah,
stuff.
like to Amazon or something.
And Microsoft,
right, yeah.
let's say my crazy conspiracy theory of Microsoft is like, we're done making hardware. We want to be service and software based. Like that's where we specialize in PC. There's already a PC market out there. We can be on these.
Like what Microsoft did with Sega.
What did they do with Sega?
I thought you were sorry. I thought you were saying like if okay because
no. I'm not talking about like that. I'm talking about I
misunderstood.
If they like basically buying Valve to get access to Steam, and now that's theirs, the biggest, having that delivery system that's already there.
Yeah,
and they don't touch it, but they're getting all that money because they want the profits. They want the cuts of all the sales from that, and that is the biggest platform right now on PC to buy games is from Steam. So that would be their obstacle to that. They had that and they had complete control of that. Any game that's sold, like bought through Steam or their own service, whatever, on any phone or PC, like that cut's going to them. So they're getting all that money. They don't have to worry about manufacturing costs of hardware anymore like that. They're now like a service. Like Valve already tried and failed with hardware, like their own Steambox stuff that didn't take off. Yeah, so I think the lessons being learned now is that hardware is harder to do well. Like, even the companies that have been doing it for a while don't always get it right. How many times has Nintendo got a console wrong, despite having all this experience with them? Sony even got the initial thing with PS3 wrong. Like, that architecture was cell processor. Like, that was not good. Like, it's a costly venture to do that.
Yeah.
Microsoft has an out, I think, that they can still capitalize on gaming, but not have to be in the hardware business anymore with Xbox. I think there's still life for them to do that.
I think they still got one console in them, for sure, at least. Can I say one thing about the Xbox One X?
I don't think their games will go to like PlayStation.
While we're doing Hotakes?
Yeah.
I was thinking about this. I think the look of the Xbox One X is costing it sales. I think it looks boring. I think it looks worse than the Xbox One S. When they brought it out and they said this is the smallest Xbox ever, I think a lot of us shrugged and said, that's not what we wanted. We wanted a cool looking beefcake. And so here's my Hotake on this one. I think if it had a lime green X across the top of it, it would sell more. The Xbox One X.
You're saying
if it had just a ridiculous, if it looked dumb, it would sell more.
You're saying the Xbox One X needs to be more provocative.
Yes.
It needs to have something visually that for better or for worse, even if people were saying this lime green X is disgusting, and they were just mad about it, that would be more beneficial.
Yeah, I really do. I think there is very little exciting about the Xbox One X right now, and you're right. I was downplaying a little bit, but it was huge to have a game launch that day as the console.
Yeah.
So you have that console, you take it home, and you boot up Crackdown 3 and see everything that it can do. And I get why that would be exciting.
I think what you're saying is exactly how I feel, but less about a lime green X and more about commitment.
Yeah.
Because I think just looking at the history of the Xbox One and Microsoft in this era, they've sort of come up with these grand plans and then abandoned them. I think you look at the launch of the Xbox One, this all-entertainment platform, bundled with Kinect. There was this sharp move away from that when you saw the rise of Phil Spencer.
Which was smart.
Yeah, which was smart.
Yeah.
Where you have this move away from that messaging. You have new messaging. You're like, no, it's about games. We have like Rise of the Tomb Raider. We've got Sunset Overdrive. Just kind of this shift in what they were selling. And now I feel like you're having another shift where it's like, okay, now we're also coming to Windows 10 PC. That's a big deal. We're going to say, Xbox One and Windows 10 exclusive. We want you to know that we've got this thing with Minecraft. And now we're doing another shift where we have the Xbox One X, and this is the most powerful console ever. And I think what I'm trying to say is that these messages, while not inherently bad, there's been too many of them, and we've been shifting too much. Like, nothing has really gained any traction. Mm-hmm. And I think the things that have succeeded maybe haven't sent the message that they thought they were going to send. I think Rise of the Tomb Raider is a really good game. I'm glad that I've played a little bit of it, but I don't think it had the impact that they thought it was going to have based on the read that they did for the original Tomb Raider.
Yeah.
And so I do think that there's some expectation versus like what is actually going on. I think that's even true with Halo 5 and Gears of War 4, where they didn't realize necessarily how that maybe those things wouldn't quite have the legs that they expected them to. That maybe the enthusiasm for some of those properties and the things that they're going after is not exactly where they are. Whereas I feel like, again, it's hindsight is always 20/20, but you take a look at something like Horizon, where like we expressed a lot of doubt about Horizon, but there was something there. There was something that paid off. I can't point to an example like that for Microsoft.
Yeah, and think about what would have happened if they just made another Killzone game.
Right.
If Guerrilla actually, instead of doing Horizon, if Sony said, no, we want more Killzone, you're a Killzone-only studio, it would have, I shouldn't say it would have sucked. It would have been fine. It wouldn't have blown up. It wouldn't have gotten any notoriety.
It would have just been more of the same.
Yeah. And so, right, we know the Coalition right now is working on another Gears game that very, like, a smaller and smaller audience is enthused about. And so that is discouraging. And I bet next year's Gears, and I bet the year after that is Halo. And so I bet we're going to see that game at E3 this year, this new Gears game.
And how is what message is that going to send? How is that going to be
received? It has to be striking. It needs a neon green X.
It has to be shocking. Yeah, it has to be provocative in some way. And I do want to take back what I said a little bit, because I think the example that you can point to is Killer Instinct, where I think Killer Instinct outperformed expectations.
Absolutely,
that had more legs than it did. But unfortunately, I think that being in the genre that it's in is limiting in and of itself, where I think there are a lot of people who think fighting games aren't for them.
Oh, sure.
And that's a battle that is not exclusive to Killer Instinct. That is a whole different conversation.
But I'd counter, though, because of how well Injustice 2 is doing.
Right, but Injustice 2 has Batman in it. It's got Superman in it. I think that's something that you can't ignore.
Yeah. I mean, Killer Instinct isn't even Mortal Kombat in terms of recognition. I get that.
Right, and the space between, the audience that you're hitting between when the last one came out and now.
But I think we're learning. I think the gaming audience is learning to like fighting games. I don't think it'll be obscure. Absolutely,
but I'm just trying to understand these things as they're happening. Where it is so much harder to get excited about hardware than it is software. And as cool as Cuphead looks, we've known about it forever. That doesn't make us excited about the Xbox One X and the promise of it being the most powerful video game console. Like, it being a good game doesn't take advantage of that hardware in the shocking, the provocative, the lime green X way that we're saying. And like, Forza is Forza. It's weird to say that. It's weird to undermine their efforts when that could very well be an excellent racing game. But again, it's sort of like what we were talking about with Gears. It's not exciting. It's not, what could this possibly be? I don't know. And honestly, what you were talking about with Crackdown, what's interesting about Crackdown is, while it was often delayed, while it was something that was maybe bearing more expectation than it was supposed to, I think when you look at that lineup of games, it had the most capacity to surprise.
Yeah.
I think.
Because I
don't think Crackdown I think Crackdown, based on what it is as a series, has more room to go crazy because it wants to go crazy. And so therefore, I think it could have been the most interesting out of this lineup. Yeah.
The game that I would want to play the most of that list. Absolutely. Yeah. Look forward to it in 2018.
Are we being doom and gloom unnecessarily.
Damiani is, yeah.
I don't think so. Microsoft the last 2 years is just giving me fewer and fewer reasons to own their system, which is amazing because of how big of a flip flop it is from last generation with the 360, which to me was a must-own system because it's not just exclusives. It's more than that. I feel like the biggest gaming communities are on PlayStation, PC, or PlayStation and PC right now, with Nintendo right behind it, like online communities.
You're saying the Nintendo online community is bigger than the Xbox.
I said PC and Sony. I was unsure about Nintendo. I'm
But
unsure
where
about
you
Nintendo.
you put Nintendo above Xbox?
In terms of where like your friends are all playing it and stuff. I want like that's where you need like you need to have like think of like let's talk about Call of Duty.
Yeah.
This generation. People go to play it on PC or PS4. Xbox is probably the third tier system for where people go to
It
play
is,
it on.
but it's still millions.
Whereas,
That third
last
tier
generation, it was the number one play. Everyone was. If you wanted to play Call of Duty with people, you were playing it on Xbox 360. That's what
Actually,
all your friends were playing it on mostly.
For Call of Duty in particular, it doesn't do too well on PC. I think it's
Yeah.
PlayStation, Xbox, and PC for
Yeah,
that one in
but
particular.
last generation it was Xbox 360.
Yeah,
like
it was
every big
Xbox
release that was
Yeah.
multi-platform, you were on 360. So it was like the community there of your friends, the people you want to play with. That's what I'm talking about. You would go on there. And Sony like didn't have that last generation. They didn't have that.
They didn't.
And then exclusives. Not only did Microsoft had pretty strong exclusives, they were ambitious. It didn't pay off necessarily in the end, but they went after like Japanese developers. Like they had those JRPGs that were exclusive to Xbox
I was
in
thinking
North
about this.
America.
You know what I think was huge was BioShock. Is that an exclusive? Mass Effect is an exclusive. Those two are huge.
Right.
I think
Remember
those are
when
huge.
Mass Effect? Yeah.
But that's the thing that was so good and interesting about the Xbox 360, and that's what Damiani is illustrating, is it was a multifaceted console. From a service perspective, Xbox Live was better than the competition. It was a better way to play console games online. From an indie game perspective, Xbox Live Arcade was getting bigger names, doing more stuff than Sony was for a long time.
Yeah,
than
yeah.
Nintendo was for a long time. It basically got them into gear into doing that stuff. When you're talking about big name, mass appeal games like BioShock and Mass Effect, it was outdoing the competition. When you're talking about like more hardcore things like the JRPGs that it was ambitiously going after, it's like it felt like an attack on all fronts. Whereas I feel like the Xbox One, what I was trying to say is it feels like they sort of come up with an umbrella plan, and then it's like they kind of commit to it, but so many areas need addressing. Like I want to see an attack on all fronts. I want you to just like try to be the best in all areas, not just, all right, we have the most powerful console ever, and that's like pretty much the thing. Like what else is there? Like bring back Xbox Live Arcade in a big way. Get like those exclusive games. Like I don't understand how you can look at the competition and take the approaches that they're taking.
Yeah.
They are not giving me a good enough reason to own any Xbox One right now. Xbox OG, or the upcoming Xbox One X. What they're offering is because they don't have the exclusives on there. That I don't care about that. Ooh, the most powerful gaming PC, most powerful console. Okay, I already own a PC that, if I spend a little bit, just a little bit more, it'll blow away anything you can do on a console. I'm sorry. Like, if you have the money, I get people go, it's a cheaper option, but like if you really care about visual fidelity, you're the type of person who is like gonna go on a PC and be like, screw you, Xbox One X.
That's why I think the One S will continue to sell well. I think that'll have a good fall.
They should have put more behind that, honestly, and screw this Xbox One X thing. They should have just did the S and be like, we're pushing this really hard here because it's like it's cheaper. It's it seems to be selling pretty well.
Yeah.
But they need to, as Ben said, they need to be pushing more fronts and having compelling stuff on those fronts to justify it. Like right now, I am satisfied by having a PlayStation, a Switch, and a PC. There's nothing. I'm tired of Halo. I'm done with Halo. I don't want to ever play another Halo game. That's enough.
But Damiani, because you have a PC, you'll never miss out on anything again. That's it.
Yeah. Besides Halo. Yeah.
Even Halo is going to come to PC.
It doesn't come out right away on PC though.
It will.
But eventually
it'll be day and date with PC, the new one.
But yeah, because thank you for taking my next point.
Yeah.
Everything's on PC except for Nintendo and Sony exclusives. It's
Yeah.
like, hey, I have everything I could ever want.
I mean,
Like they just lost, and I think it's too late in the game for them to do anything with Xbox One X. I think this system will sell worse than the new one. Xbox One S will definitely sell worse than PlayStation 4 Pro, and they're gonna look at it and be like, "This was bad. Like we wasted so much money on this
They
thing,
spent a lot
and
of
it did
R&D
not
on it,
sell."
yeah.
And that is gonna be the death. That's gonna be the nail in the coffin for Xbox. Like I think they're gonna seriously reevaluate what they're doing with their hardware and be like, either they go with a leaner, cheaper next system or whatever, and come out like their life depends on it, or they're just gonna call it quits and be like, we're doing a different strategy. Like we're not doing Xbox hardware anymore.
But like Damiani, like so much of their business relies on Xbox One Live.
Xbox Live can still continue.
Xbox Live.
It can still continue.
Not on PC, man. You're gonna spend $50 a year to like play games on your PC.
They could think of something.
I
mean, they wouldn't want to, but the service-based things is where things are going in terms of that.
But they can compete with that on consoles. But when they move into the PC space, they're hosed. They can't do that.
Want to buy Valve.
I think the voice that
$50 a month to, like,
you're
access
bringing,
Steam.
Kyle, is actually really important. Where you can take a step back and say they've sold a lot of Xbox Ones.
Yeah.
Like this is a platform with a big install base. The Xbox One X might sell well, and it's an interesting point to bring up, and it's an important point to bring up, because I worry that sometimes these conversations sound like they're not doing anything well. There's no success. They're a total failure. It's not that. I think it's more of the perception of understanding why they're doing these things and wanting that to see that hunger to be the best, or to have that game that you can't get anywhere else. That feeling, just to me as a consumer, that's important. Like maybe for them, and they've even said this, we're not trying to beat Sony, but it's not that I need them to beat Sony. I just want to see that grab me by the balls move.
Yeah.
And I'm not seeing that.
Ben,
I want a reason to pay attention.
I thought of the other game from this year from Microsoft Studios, Phantom Dust. Isn't that crazy? The way the game was revealed and then canceled, and then like we still got plans for Phantom Dust, and they released a pretty good port that's free to play. And like that's the end of that story. You know what I mean? Like, another game that's just like carrying too much on his shoulders, like a fun game.
Right, but think about the excitement and the fervor for a Sony series that came out that returned this year. What was it?
Crash Bandicoot?
Crash Bandicoot.
Yeah.
Think about how that was initially revealed with Sean Layden.
Yeah.
Think about like how relatively quickly it happened from announcement to release. Think about how well it did. Whereas I feel like when you chart a similar thing with Microsoft, it's just like a big up, a big down, and then just kind of levels out and happens, and then we forget about it.
Yeah, it's weird. And I still think Crash is coming to the Xbox eventually.
Yeah.
Putting
Next year.
next year, and then like
2018.
2018.
There you go. I'm sorry. Yeah, like I know I'm doom and gloom, but like I'm sorry. Microsoft is just so boring to me, or Xbox is so boring in its appeal to me right now.
Needs that green X, dude.
Just need, they need that lime green X with like hologram projector that makes a spinning like the Xbox logo. No,
Microsoft is bringing you the holiday.
I just don't get I get like PlayStation 3 coming from PlayStation 2 was such a big WTF moment for like Sony. I was like, how did you do that, Sony? But like going from 360 to like Xbox One, like it's still selling well, but like the vibe about Microsoft's Xbox brand, to me, like, is just like dull.
Yeah.
It's like, what's to get excited about? Like,
Well,
that's the problem.
The thing is, and if people were to bring this up, I think it's fair. But so you have something like Sea of Thieves, which looks great.
Thank you, Ben.
It
we
looks
found
great.
one. And that's not this
Yes.
year, though, right? That is 2018?
I believe so.
I think it's 2018, yeah.
Yeah,
but you found something exciting. We got there. Yes.
But something that we have had that reaction to.
Yeah.
I was like, wow, this is a brand new, exciting thing. There's that well of possibility there. We are watching it, and you're seeing us react to a video game that we can only get on this side of the court. But I have to wonder, right? And maybe it just sounds like we're pinning them into a corner where they can't win no matter what. It's like, is it too little too late? Is that enough, even though we are really excited about it? I mean, it's something that I feel like you could also paint the picture of for the Wii U, right? Where the Wii U has incredible games that I am excited about and still think of fondly.
And they were too little too late.
Yeah, they were just spaced so far apart that all of the good that they did just eventually eroded away. And I have to wonder if Microsoft is in a similar position where, like, we were talking about that week of release, right? Where it just felt like a lot was happening on Sony's end. It's like, okay, you have all of these games coming out, and then you've got Uncharted Lost Legacy like next week. It's just like bam, 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 bam. All of these things are building on top of each other. They're all leaning on each other and making it appear stronger, whereas I'm worried like Sea of Thieves, maybe it's going to be amazing. Maybe we all love it. But then it's it. Then it just sort of deflates.
Yeah. It's weird, Ben. It's like maybe a streamer's delight, maybe Sea of Thieves will take off in a way that, not Minecraft, but like, you know, just a very streamable game. Maybe it'll get that attention that way. We started the podcast talking about a game that could grow an audience. I think Sea of Thieves might be one of those.
Sure.
But again, that's rolling a D20, man. That's
right.
Like so hard to hit. That's
Yeah.
a really, really hard one to hit.
Yeah, it is a good point that you bring up, though, because, you know, you think back to Halo. You could absolutely make the argument that game carried that platform, and you never know what it's going to be, and having that life beyond the game is so important and could have happened with Sea of Thieves. I think it's a very good point to bring up.
But Halo happened on a new console.
Right.
And so you're right. I get you're too little too late is the point. That's like really interesting, Ben. But yeah. Oh, God. It's like Rare finally it's been so many years since Rare gets to make an interesting game. You want it to work. It'll work. It's going to work out. Don't worry about it. 10 mil.
All right. Let's move on. Let's move on to emails. Are there any closing thoughts about the Crackdown 3 delay, the state of Microsoft, the Xbox One X that we want to say before we move on?
No, it's not. It shouldn't be bad news when a game gets delayed, but it just feels like it in just the way that the 2017 has not been a good Xbox year, and it has been an insane PlayStation year and an insane Nintendo year, and so it just by comparison just looks dreadful.
Yeah. Yep. All right. There we go. Our first email today comes in from Jared. And Jared says, "Hey, Ben and panel. Greetings from KC," which I would assume is Kansas City. "I have a question and short story and would love to hear what you think."
We'll take the question.
We're going to do the short stories. It's actually very short. Kyle, I recently went back to one of my favorite games from 2015, Metal Gear Solid 5: The Phantom Pain.
Whoa.
For whatever reason, I got to mission 37 and never finished the game back in 2015.
Whoa.
Last weekend, I started playing it again, and I'm finding myself not only loving the game again after a year and a half hiatus, but finding a new appreciation for it. Have you had a similar experience? If so, with what games? I've been on a much tighter budget lately with my games, so I've been really digging into my backlog. It seems like in some cases, giving games some time to sit on the shelf can actually be a good thing. It was for me, at least.
Yeah, and I'll to reiterate, like I finished it originally, but like my whole discussion on Bloodborne kind of is that. Like, I finished it the first time, but going back to it after 2 years, it's made me appreciate it more. So,
but are there any games that you didn't even see the credits to, that you came back to, didn't start over, and then finished and had stronger feelings for it?
So this was not a full playthrough of Metal Gear Solid 5. It was I'm just hopping in. I'm going to do 37 and onward, right? Is that what we're saying? Okay.
Picked up where they left off.
That's my understanding.
So anytime it's been a year or more, I'm much more likely to just start over the playthrough.
Yeah, it's actually, I don't think it's completely clear whether he started from Mission 37 or just did the whole thing over. Just got to Mission 37, never finished it, and then started playing it again.
Yeah. No, that's hard for me to do. I like to put a game away. And so whether that means I finish it and get to the credits or just I've lost interest and I'm settled, I almost never come back to them, to be honest with you. Like Gravity Rush 2, had a really good time, played it for maybe 8 to 10 hours. I'll never come back, even though I have not finished that game. But I'm like good with it. And so I'm not curious how it ends, even though you all say it like it gets crazier and crazier.
It's insane.
Yeah. It's so funny.
Yeah.
What?
But I mean, that's the thing. That little voice that you had at the end, that self-correction,
Yep.
doesn't that eat away at you?
It does.
That maybe there's something that I'm not seeing.
But I got to truck on. I got to move on.
But you don't have to.
I do. I got to.
What did we just say? You have to
Jeez.
follow your heart.
Yeah, I got to play Mega Man. Sonic Mania.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah, I feel like the only game I started and didn't finish and came back and finished after significant time was Zelda 2: The Adventure of Link.
Wait, what's this story? So when was the
When
first
it
time you
first
played
came
it?
out, I tried to play it.
What, it's like 89, dude. What year is that?
Yeah, I couldn't play it. It was beyond like a little like 89, like 5-year-old. I couldn't understand that game.
Mm-hmm.
I think I got to like the first dungeon and maybe got to the first boss, and that was it. I
Nice.
couldn't even figure out where to go. So yeah, fast forward to like 4 or 5 years later, I finally played it and beat it. I was like, oh,
As a
okay.
10-year-old, you're like, I got this now.
Yeah, like I was like, what was when did Nintendo Power Source come online? 94, 95. So I was like 12 or something when I beat the Zelda 2.
Nice.
12 or 13 is when so somewhere in the mid 90s or something, or late 90s.
So after Link to the Past.
Oh yeah, I beat it after Link to the Past.
Cool.
That's actually true of a lot of retro games for me.
Yeah.
Where I just didn't either have the skill or patience as a kid, or like had the games and was only renting them or borrowing from a friend or something. Like Zelda 1, Super Metroid, Link to the Past, Mega Man X, I all finished when I was like pretty significantly older. So
Dark Souls 3 is actually a really good example.
yeah, that's right.
I got near the end and new games came out. But I mean, this is stream life. I don't know if this would have happened otherwise. I just said, okay, I'm going to stream the end. And it just turned out to be one night because this person showed up and cheated and gave me a bunch of extra souls. And so I was way over leveled and then just with Brad and Gale stomped through the rest of the game pretty easily.
Did it feel good to do that?
It felt better than not playing it.
Sure.
And so, I don't think I was going to get over the hurdle of hopping back into the game and, just soloing it the rest of the way. And so it felt better than the alternative of putting it away forever.
The most recent example for me is I did not finish Dragon Quest VII, and it's been, I don't know how long. It's been several months since I last chipped away at
3DS version, right?
3DS version.
Yeah.
And I started playing it again, and I was really worried about it because I was thinking about it and I don't remember where I am, what I was doing, if I was in the middle of one of these stories or not. I don't even remember all of the stories that I've already done.
Yeah, man.
But it ended up being okay. I got through it just fine, and I think because of the fragmented nature of that game, because it is a collection of individual stories, that it was not as severe as it could have been if I was just in the middle of one grand story.
That's another example of when I put in my 10 hours and I uninstalled it. I had to make space for Fire Emblem. So I don't know if I'll ever reinstall it.
One of these days when I finish Dragon Quest VII, it has been a series of ups and downs. There's
Yeah.
a lot I want to say about it, but I want to wait until I finish.
Yeah. That'd be cool.
Dragon Quest VII is a more interesting game than you think it is 10 hours in.
Whoa.
It just structurally...
Even after I have Dog Boy?
But, it also kind of isn't. It is both surprising me and also not surprising me. And
Yeah. Yeah, Ben, the puzzle pieces, man.
I know.
Ugh.
It's a really interesting game, and I want to finish it before I dive in on some of those thoughts.
Okay.
If somebody were to play all of Dragon Quest VII and go, I hate this, I think they could mount a very reasonable defense.
Got it. Yeah.
But I think the opposite is true, too.
I'm never reinstalling it, dude.
Oh.
You sealed it. You've closed
No,
the vault.
that's not what I wanted to do.
You spun the vault.
Just be ready for Dragon Quest XI.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
I'm ready.
All right. Our next email comes in from Brandon. And Brandon, I apologize. I forgot that I pulled this email because we kind of covered this ground already. Hey everyone, in light of Sonic Mania reviewing very highly nearly everywhere I see, I wonder what games there are, if any, from the past that could have a new entry done in the style of what it once was and be met with the same praise. Sonic Mania looks like the first games of the Hedgehog series. So is there any else that you could see fit into this trend, or is Sonic a special case? So pick a series that you kind of want to see the Sonic Mania treatment to, the old, new, or just the old.
And it can't be Mega Man. And it can't be...
It could be Mega Man X. You could say make a new Mega Man X
Mega
game.
Man X.
You absolutely could do
Take
that,
DZ,
man.
Take DZ right
You
now.
could say that. No, I'm not going to, but I'm saying you could if you wanted to. I think that there's a huge potential for PS1-esque remakes.
Yes.
I think you could really, really do this. The Mega Man Legends 3 I envision is PS1-esque. It looks nasty, but it looks so good. When I say nasty, I mean low poly. When I say so good, I mean the pixel art applied to those low poly.
What if you did a new siphon filter and it just looked like a PS1 game?
Yes.
I could
Ben.
work. It could work.
Ben,
People would be
that's
so into
good.
that.
And people would be so into
People
it.
would be so into
And
it.
again, you can only strike that iron once.
Yes.
You can only make
Well-
one of those, but people will be so excited about
Maybe you could do two.
it. Okay. But yeah. I think that like, oh my god, that wears off quickly. But yeah,
Right.
for siphon filter, absolutely, Ben. That's a really good one. And just make it in that style, just
Yeah.
the same walk. The taser has to work the
taser
exact
has to
same.
work the
That's
exact
in the
same
trailer.
way.
You
Yep.
open with that. Make sure you have the taser in the trailer.
Man. Get some Castlevanias going.
For sure.
Yeah, I mean, like, that's
Yeah,
what
they did
everyone wants,
they did,
right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
they did Rebirth, but whatever. No.
That's the thing about Castlevania is they actually have gone back to the well.
Yeah, like that's the thing. I mean, I'll be honest. The only thing I want at this point from that they're gonna make new is I just want them to get the team back together and make Symphony of the Night 2. Or
Symphony of the Night 2?
Another Symphony of the Night
Yeah,
game,
yeah.
basically.
But
But
the
that's-
thing is,
they're not
when,
getting that team back
that'll never
together, man.
happen.
when
Yeah.
so many games, I mean, so many games have taken so much from Symphony of the Night, what do you do in Symphony of the Night 2?
From
like
Software develop it. First 2D. From Software 2D, baby. Yeah. Here we go. Yeah. All right.
It would work. We'd buy it. We'd all buy that game.
Yeah, but I'm just wondering what made Symphony of the Night so good is seen in so many other games. So I wonder, like, if it would feel like revisiting it, I guess.
So the environment.
I get what you
again.
mean. I get what you mean. Yeah,
Like-
yeah. It wouldn't have that finally feel to it, would it?
Yeah.
Right.
And you know what's kind of cool
So
is
many games
I'm
like
thinking of that it got delayed huge. It was, and I think it's already on early access. That it was made to look like a Neo Geo Pocket game.
Oh
fighting
yeah,
game.
the it's coming to Switch too.
Yeah.
The fighters,
yeah.
like Pocket Rumble or something.
Yeah,
Yeah. I played that game. It's pretty cool.
I like that. I like
Yeah.
that a lot. If your style is deliberately restrained, I always dig that big time. And so the question ended, is Sonic unique? It absolutely is. Sonic has jaded longtime fans for many years, and that's also like a little ingredient you need to throw into the witch's brew. And so like it is really, really hard to find an exact thing. But yeah, there's definitely much to mine in this old style, but blown out into huge proportions.
Spyro?
I think Spyro would be held back going into PS1 style.
You think so?
Yeah.
Because those are the ones that people like.
Yeah. Well, I think, Ben, almost positively, Spyro's getting the exact same thing Crash got this year.
You think so?
I think they're making 1, 2, and 3 completely remastered. I think there's almost no doubt. Draft your tweets.
There's almost no doubt.
Yep. Draft your tweets. Write those tweets. Basically, Ben, because they said like we're blown away by the success. We have other franchises we could do this for. They don't. They have only Spyro. Maybe Tony Hawk. Oh no, they don't have Tony Hawk anymore. Not belonging to Activision. So anyway, yeah, Spyro's happening, and that's what I would do before a demake. I would absolutely make a remastered version of the Spyro games.
Speaking of Tony Hawk, can you do a Tony Hawk?
PS1 style? Yeah, baby.
Can you? Because
Yeah,
because
baby.
they tried to remake Pro Skater 1. And
Yeah,
you know.
and it was HD. It didn't look that good.
Right.
Yeah, dude. Yes.
And you can
in that
just
style. Yes.
PS1 graphics.
Yes, it'd be so fun. But like, really, those limitations add
And
to so
call
many
it
things.
like 6.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That is as lime green as you could be. I think.
that'd be really fun. The game's just called 6.
Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 6.
It's just called 5, man.
Well,
it's like Sonic getting in that elevator that completely ignores 4. It's just like this game's called 5.
And the way that you do it is, I feel like you do the announcement of the announcement, where you say, we have a new trailer for a new Tony Hawk game.
Yeah.
And you build it up, and you have people do the thing where they're like, oh, they're all terrible, we're all jaded, blah, blah, blah. And then you make it look like...
Yeah. Because I firmly believe there is something to that style. The way things are communicated in lower terms helps with a lot of things.
Yeah.
And it's why I think we need waypoints and mini-maps in all the games that we have today.
Because I think when you make Tony Hawk look better, the ridiculous stuff doesn't work as well.
Yeah.
It's not as cool that you're driving around Area 51.
Yeah. Make that happen. By the way, Uncharted Lost Legacy, no mini-map, no waypoints. I like that a lot.
One thing I want to get your opinion of Uncharted Lost Legacy, how do you feel about being able to, the photo mode, being able to make faces at any point with Chloe, where you can...
Oh, I did not know you could do that.
You didn't know you could do that?
No.
Okay.
You have to enable photo mode.
You have to enable
and like
photo mode.
left and right
The
click.
reason why I bring it up is I was reading the Kotaku review of it,
Yeah.
and that was they enjoyed that very much.
Okay.
I'm not making...
Look,
okay.
as
It
long as
sounds
it's
like
not
I'm
a
making
criticism.
fun of
No,
that
yeah,
review.
because the way it was
I'm
leading
not.
in, I thought it was going to
really
be
wanted to
criticism.
know.
I don't like that they're selfies.
No,
No,
it's not
like, it's completely ignorable. It's good.
Okay.
But if you want to take selfies, apparently it's there. Yeah.
Yeah, I wanted to know your take on it specifically.
I love it in Wind Waker.
I love it in Wind Waker. I like it in a lot of things. I like photo modes.
Yeah.
Thought of one.
There's no way that
Damiani's
that's
got
gonna
one.
be interpreted the right way.
F-Zero.
Yeah. But wait, do you want SNES F-Zero?
I think you're letting a lot of people down if you
Yeah.
do that, Damiani. I think you're letting a lot of people down. I would say F-Zero GX is the height of that series.
But I
More
don't...
F-Zero.
Do you think that is absolutely the majority feels that way?
I think the majority of F-Zero fans feel that way, yes.
Okay.
If not, I think they put on 64. I think very
Yeah.
few people say that F-Zero on Super Nintendo is the height of it. We need to go back to that.
I like F-Zero. Looks good. Still Super Nintendo one. Mode 7.
It looks okay.
Looks good. Good sprites.
It looks good.
Good sprites. Good sprites.
Good music.
It looks... What doesn't look good about it?
I don't always dig like they always just look 2D. It just
Okay.
looks like you're racing against 2D things.
That was a lot better than what I was expecting.
GX came out, GameCube. I'm trying to think when 20 years would pass. So it'd be acceptable to have a new F-Zero GX style game.
Yeah, we just need Miyamoto to figure out those controls. He's got to find a unique way to control F-Zero, and then we can have that game finally.
I feel like we should have come up with more. We should have come up with more...
But
games.
really, I think it speaks to Sonic the Hedgehog and its uniqueness. That is why I think
don't
we
know.
can't.
I'm getting
rattle
some
them off.
things that are popping up.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, let me throw this at you.
Yeah.
A game that they've like soft rebooted a couple of times. Go back to the original style. Mm-hmm. I think that would make some people happy. Revenge of the Shinobi. I think it could work.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a good one, Ben.
Yeah.
That's really, really cool. Sick, dude.
All right. Last email.
Yep. Okay.
If any pop into your head, let me know.
I'll keep thinking.
Okay. This is from Quagtheus. Nervous over high ambition. Hey, allies. A few weeks ago, Ubisoft released a video showing off the technology and ambition of Beyond Good and Evil 2. It was certainly impressive and even groundbreaking, but honestly, it left me feeling way more worried than excited. Many years ago, I'd be thrilled to see such ambition and advanced technology in a game, but nowadays, I know better than to get so excited. I await the inevitable refocusing of the game's scope because I don't think it's possible to deliver a polished game with such elaborate real-time technologies in a playground that huge. After hearing Michel Ancel describe how we'll play the game, I wanted to see a soulless suit from Ubisoft ask him to please reel it in. Should we be this cautious about very ambitious video games, or should we encourage developers to shoot for the stars? So there's kind of a lot to unpack here, but I thought in light of talking about Crackdown 3,
Yeah.
this is an interesting question where you have this pie in the sky initial pitch, and we just see that change so many times. Is that a fair mindset?
Yeah, have you seen that video?
Yeah.
It's insane. The expectations, the scale of this game. It's too much. They're making a game that you can't make right now. And so I think it's actually very reasonable to expect to see it scaled back when it finally releases. But no, if Ubisoft, this creative publisher, is willing to fund this exploration of game design, that's the best thing you could possibly ask them to do. It's not even, like, forget about any cliffhangers, anything you cared about of the characters of Beyond Good and Evil. It's a prequel, so, like, that pressure is kind of off. And so really, yeah, go nuts and figure out what works. I don't think their entire idea is going to be fun, and that's really the fun part. The interesting part of game design is when I think they're figuring out what's fun and being able to work with it and make changes, as opposed to just huge deadlines and we need to move forward with it, whether it's fun or not. And so, yeah, I think it's cool. It's you're watching that video and seeing him come out into the universe and then zoom back in, and then just like the chimp is flying around that huge statue. It's scary because it's like you want the best for a person, and you're saying you're working too hard, you're making this too big. But this idea that is unique, that it's not regular, that doesn't happen with many games, and because it's unique, I think we got to, in this case, applaud it. I think it's pretty cool.
This is a mindset that I've adopted that feels shitty to share, because I don't think a lot of people can adopt this, where, like, the way that I feel about video games, the way I get excited about them, is I don't buy in for the bigness and the boldness until it's in my hands. Mm-hmm. If you're promising to be big and bold, a lot of times that's enough for me to want to check it out, but I don't just mentally buy into it until I'm actually playing it. I will buy in if this is coming from, if there's precedent for it. So either the creator has done something that has really impressed me, or it's from a series that has really impressed me. Then it's a lot easier for me to buy in. But otherwise, it's this weird line of, I will play it, but I'm not convinced until I can actually see those promises firsthand. And the reason why it's shitty is, like, that's such a privileged position to be in. I think for a lot of people, they need to know, like, I only have so much money and so much time to play these games. Mm-hmm. Should I buy into this or not?
Yeah.
And what's frustrating to me, and probably I think the reason why I bring this up, is it's so hard to know. I think it is easy to sell promises. I think it is easy to sell ideas. I think it is easy to show a game in a way that it is convincing. And I think it is harder and harder to know sometimes if it is going to meet those expectations.
I mean, I think over the years I've just learned, I think we all have, speaking for myself specifically, I think that I get weary when people start promising certain features that sound extraordinary or exceptional, even if they have the pedigree of making good stuff before them. I always interpret it as, like, they're speaking because they're trying to get people excited about something, but time and time again I've been proven, like, that you should wait till you actually play it before believing what they're saying. And a lot of times, if not almost all the time, publishers will oversell their stuff because it's their job. Yeah. Their job to get you excited about this stuff. While it might have been close that, oh yeah, it kind of did that, it almost always it didn't exactly do that. Like, that was a little bit of an exaggeration there. Like, it didn't quite hit that, but that's why I just tend to, like, reel things in. When someone says something super exciting, no matter what game, even, like, especially for, like, a new Zelda game, like Breath of the Wild, like, I was super skeptical about a lot of that stuff. I'm like, yeah, okay, I'll believe it when I play the game, guys. Like, you can chill out.
It was all true.
We are breaking the Zelda traditions. Like, I was like, how many? They had said that so many times before. Like, this game, Twilight Princess, we're gonna break conventions with the Zelda. Skyward Sword, we're gonna break with Zelda traditions. Like, the DS ones, we're breaking Zelda traditions. Like, not to, like, A Link Between Worlds, like, sort of was like, I saw an inkling of it finally. I was like, oh, okay, that sort of went that direction, but like
Not sort of hugely. That was
no,
cool.
it
Yes,
was
that cool.
no, it
Yes,
was
cool.
it was a small step in that direction. It had its flaws with the rental system stuff, but I don't want to get in. Like, let's not get into that. But Breath of the Wild, I was like, yeah, okay, it's probably gonna be a way more open zone and stuff, but it's still. I'm still gonna have to go to certain spots and stuff, and I'm still gonna have to do dungeons. These mini shrines are probably gonna unlock. Going to be what you have to do to unlock the dungeons and stuff. It's still going to be a traditional Zelda formula. And then played it at E3. I was like, all right, at least the overworld part of it is. I started to buy into it, and when I played the game, I was like, okay, finally you came close to what you said to do. Very close, like.
They completely did it. What do you mean they came close?
Oh, the dungeon part. They completely bullshitted on the proper dungeon stuff. Like, they oversold that. They kept that ambiguous as much as possible because they knew there'd be some disappointment from people about that. But aside from that, yes, they did hit a lot of their stuff. Sorry to be so specific on Zelda because everyone's like, oh, stop talking about Zelda, Damiani.
No, but I mean,
But that was like a good example. Like, I even doubted that.
Yeah.
Like,
Right.
these guys who make these like great games, I was like, I've just learned the moral is I just learned until I play it, I don't care what you tell me.
Right.
Like it might make me interested. Like as you said, Ben. Like when you hear that, yeah, that's all I needed to say. I'll try it because I want to see if you're telling the truth or not.
right, but that like wholesale, I believe it, like intent to play and belief are I do believe are two different things. And it sounds like what all of us are saying, every single person on this table is, yes, you should absolutely be that cautious. Outside of the rare, like there are more examples where that caution was warranted versus when it was not.
You should assume now that will be a bad video game.
That's such a
I think neutral is what you should go in.
No.
reasonable doubt.
You can be excited about a game and be worried, and I think both those things are rational in the particular case of Beyond Good and Evil 2.
Yeah. That is, that's it. It is okay to be excited and worried. I think so often we are obsessed with isolating one feeling for the other, but there are plenty of games that I am both excited and worried about, and I think that's okay. I think it's you don't have to exclude one for the other. Yeah, it's very important. Sorry, you were going to say something on me.
Oh no, that's applying it to Beyond Good and Evil 2. Yeah, like I think it's okay for them in this instance to shoot a little bit more ambitious, just because of the history of like the rumors with this game and like people wanting it. They let it was a nice show on Ubisoft's part to let the developers have their moment with that game.
Yeah,
like it's good for morale for the development team and stuff. But like I do at the same time, there is like concern that people are going to buy into everything they saw is what they're going to expect from like, oh, we expect the scale, what we saw in the cinematics, like that's the kind of like, we're expecting that. Or it's like, wait till they have something a little bit more like, alpha, like an actual like playable thing that you could judge from that. Because it's, as you said, Kyle, it's clearly not going to be, zoom out, here's the...
Oh, man.
That's like the far end of like what you can expect. It's gonna be somewhere in between, like the worst case scenario. There you go.
Yeah,
but I have to say, like, as somebody who just gets to make videos about video games, there are a lot of times where you love what you're doing so much that like you I think that natural inclination is to shoot for the sky. I can't imagine making a video game, making a world, and not having that desire to want to accomplish everything. I think it's such a human desire to like I don't think Michel Ancel feels like he's bullshitting anyone. I think he when he's working with his team and he's seeing the amazing things that they do, like it's hard not to want to jump to.
And I want to be fair to his language in that video where he says this is extremely early. We're just figuring these things out. It doesn't feel like promises in that video. I do want to be fair to him.
Very true.
Well, Kyle Bossman, oh my God, I mean, this is one of the longest frame traps we've ever done. We're at 3 hours, 52 minutes right now.
Really? Are we really?
We really are. We've almost crossed that 4-hour mark. We're not going to quite get there.
Almost.
That episode. Not quite. Someday we'll cross that mark. thank you, panelists. Thank you, Kyle Bossman at the end there. Thank you, Michael Damiani. Thank you again, sponsors. If you are interested in sponsoring Frame Trap, in buying us some time in the Frame Trap, that's just the fun thing that we do. That's a $250 Patreon tier, and you can sponsor this show. We can read about you or your business before the little quiz that we do. If you'd like to email us and have us hem and haw over your ideas, the email address is askeasyallies@gmail.com. Until next time.